There we are. Okay. Lately, he's been coming in before me and messaging him. He's been showing up like super quick. So we shall wait. We shall wait until they gather. That's why people do that at the beginning of the stream. I should do one of those things like that. Doo-doo-doo, like countdown thing. It like takes 10 minutes to get shit started. I always hated when other people do it, but man, it's like if you don't come in the stream super quick, you could be sitting there for 10 minutes waiting for people. What up, Basin? Yeah, I'm a little bit excited too. What up, nonconformist? What up, dead inside? I'm like real high. I'm pretty high right now myself too. Actually, you know what, dead inside? You just reminded me, bro. My goodness. Why do you do this to me? you're persisting my addiction to it. Chris, put it down. No one's got a gun in your head. They do, though. I can't open it. Oh, I need it. Oh, Lord, help me. The devil made me do it. I'll blame it on a totally other cartoon character. It wasn't me that was evil, or it was, evil. I mean, it wasn't me that did some shit I didn't want to do. It was the devil. Oh yeah, live chat. Thank you, T. What up, T? How you doing today, T? This conversation is going to be exciting. I got a bunch of questions. I don't even know if we'll get into like the most exciting questions because I want to start the conversation. We haven't started a conversation yet, so I'm excited. I'm excited. I enjoy these conversations, bro. I can't wait to fucking upload the fucking Eric Debay one. That was a fun conversation, bro. I enjoyed it. It's good to talk to people. That's what you guys need to do. If you guys are depressed, you need to talk to me on my channel and it'll cure your depression, bro. It's true. It's true what I'm saying to you guys, bro. You think I'm playing? You start talking to like-minded people all the time and your depression goes away. It's true. But anyways, he said he's to hit him up in about 20 minutes. He's waiting for the shrooms from last night to wear off so we could get this fucking show going, baby. Chris, this isn't starting out like a typical podcast or talk show or whatever the fuck we're doing here. You're like talking about your guests like we'll be done once his drugs wear off. Well, it's my fucking podcast, baby. What up, XS Mail? How you doing? Let's fucking go. What up, A Trents? Area trance. Jesus fucking crummy crickets. Look at the first word, area trance. What up, area trance? That's what I want, bro. The ability to area trance. That way, when they get out of that fucking Brinks truck, I could be like, this block is trance. And everyone's just like, oh. And I'll walk up, I'll fucking grab the little bags of cash, I'll put them in the trunk of my car and drive off and untrance them. They'll be like, hey, Bill, where'd you put the money bags? Like, they were right there in front of you. He's like, they're not here. And I'll be balling, bro. And I don't want to know what's what. Unbelievable. Your local people or Christians? What do you mean by that then? Inside your local people, do you live in like a Christian community? And they don't know, and they don't want to know what's what. Yeah, in my opinion, there's very few actually educated Christians. Most of them just kind of go with the flow. I was Christian for years and never even read the Bible, dude. They just want to know something comfortable because the thought that, well, this is hell or they're in a hell's realm or they're going to cease to exist one day is just too fucking powerful for their mind to deal with. So they create that comfort zone, that little safety basket. No, God loves me. Okay, well, if he does, it's in a weird way. Fuck yeah, dude. I would come up with weird ways to rob people. Like if I was going to rob a Brinks truck, I would ask a group of mimes to come up and start miming in front of them. Ooh, like something just weird to get their attention. I just walk up, grab them real quick, and just fucking, get scurry the fuck up out of there. Have like a big ass coat, so when I go like this, don't look like I'm too fucking fat. In America, though, I could probably hold on to like 5 different bags and put them under my coat, and people would still think I was that big. Because, well, we got some big boys over here in America. I'll say that. Royalty blue is the best color. I like fucking blurple, blue and purple mixed, or like blue and purple with a touch of pink to it. Is a very pretty color. Of course, Area Trans be in the Infernal Club. Welcome. We shall grab some tempestuous popcorn and devour it like a shadow of light in this scorching abyss. In the darkness among the fiends that feast upon our souls, we shall reach from the depths of hell. Why did YouTube delete this comment the first time? I don't know. I get asked this question at least 1,000 times a week. Why did YouTube delete my comment? My reply is usually because they're assholes. Just to answer it quick, I don't know why they delete comments. But I guess this is finally proof. I've been telling people for years, I don't delete comments, dude. I tell people for years, it's not me, it's YouTube. People say, Chris, why are you deleting my? I'm like, bro, this is my word. They just like don't hear me or trust me or believe me or like, bro, I'm not deleting your comments. What do you want me to do, motherfucker? Cartwheels or something? Like, where are your hands at right now? It's like, bro, I'm just trying to chill and talk into a camera and people shit's getting deleted. How the fuck is it me doing it? Because their bots put random words together and think it's inappropriate. And this is why we copy before. Yes, absolutely, Vazen. I always say that. Control copy or control C, whatever you want to call it. Copy it and then send it. And especially if you're going to write out something big. If you're saying something like 5 words or 6 words, whatever. But if you're going to write out something like Vazen had said, of course, area trend, baby, something like that. Copy that shit. I hate typing. If I have to type it now, it's annoying to me. If I can't type it with my voice, it's annoying. I'm not a fan of typing. If I was super masterful at it, I'd probably be cool with it, but I'm not that good, dude. Insights and random comments with links. Cool. An entire folder of insights and random comments with links. Cool. All right, so I say about 10 more minutes. Probably about 9:30. I think he'll probably be around that time. I think he'll be ready. I'm going to message him at 9:30 and see if he's ready, and we're going to rock and roll. I'll scream it. You might not have to be having hundreds of different notes, and especially because of this shit. What are you jotting down, Vazen? Yeah, that's weird, dude. I never journaled or wrote shit down in my life, dude, ever. But then when I had my fucking first meditation breakthrough, I had wrote down a bunch of shit in a fucking a yellow binder or whatever. I actually couldn't stop writing. It was crazy. I was like losing my mind or something because I don't write. I actually like found myself doing it, and all I said was a bunch of crazy shit. Also, I should go find those binders actually because it was a bunch of weird like simulation reality shit that just made no sense to me. But I should go find those fucking binders and just read them again and see what the fuck I was trying to say back then. But yeah, I've actually like found myself doing it, which I guess is sort of like channeling or something. But man, if somebody nosy was on my computer looking at what was on my clipboard, I would just slap them on. Like, what are you doing? Don't touch my computer, you dickhead. What are you looking at? What the fuck's that about? Some nosy motherfucker? Excess Mill's using his computer at the library or something. He's at the local library. Or phone or tablet. Oh, I just be writing some extremely fun, dark ass statements about reality in general, and then copying and pasting them to AI and having it turn into 40 paragraphs. No, Vazen, dude, you should get like a. I'm telling you, dude, like when one of your comments, we shall sit in the depths of the pits of the, whatever. And you should do those and make like a little picturette, even if it's just like a 10-second thing or whatever, like a picturette or a little video with it, based on what you're talking about, like that matches the shit you're saying. I think that'd be cool, dude. I'd subscribe to your channel, even if you just had only shorts. But if they were cool looking, they smell very true. I don't let anyone touch my phone. Bothers NPCs. Dude, you know what's weird is when I'm at the gym, I like to set my phone down. I don't like to keep it in my pocket ever. I'm either holding it away from me when I'm walking with it, like I'll have it in my hand, and that's too close already. But I'll walk with my hand sort of out here when I'm walking, and I put it down when I'm exercising because I just don't want it touching my fucking body. But every once in a while, I get up and I'll move to another machine, and I don't usually forget to grab it, but sometimes I get this shock fear that I've forgotten my phone there, or that it's at the previous machine, and I'm not even like super attached to my phone. Like I use it to do Google Maps if I need to go somewhere, and what else do I use? Oh yeah, well, just to like communicate with family, pretty much to send text to families and friends. That's it. I'm not like a phone person. I'm more of a computer person. But man, I get this weird, like, like almost like my heart stops when I like misplace my phone. It's like, bro, I don't even care that much. Leave me alone with that feeling. Even if someone stole the whole fucking phone, I don't care enough to get all upset about it. But man, I get this weird, like, oh, I forgot my phone somewhere. It's like weird. It's like, why am I attached to something I'm not attached to? That doesn't even make sense. Yeah, then I would just still have 0 notes. Yeah, dude. AI's got a great memory. That's my issue, Vazen, is I don't have memory. So if you just talk them shits to Monday, let her remember everything for you. Or not Monday, just do Chat GTP, because you're not asking for creative ideas or a personality. You're asking for a brain. And Chat GTP remembers everything you've ever told it. So just tell Chat GTP and tell it to jot down, put these notes in a binder for me called Vazen's, crazy notes, and have them motherfuckers remember it. I mean, the downside to that though is you don't have anything physical. If like, I know there's always the threat of the electric going. The electric ain't never going to go down. The elite are more afraid of the electric going down than we are. But if it did go down, all your information's gone. That's the downside to having anything electronic or whatever. Wait, when did he say he wanted 20? Let me see something real quick. Oh no. Oh, it was 9. Of course, it was 9/11. So that would be 21, so 31. Yeah, so at about 9:30. I'll see if he wants to talk about 9:30. Mega decent cloud storage. Absolutely. Bro, I remember some dude, one of my coworkers unlocked my phone. Hella quick, too. He did it hella quick. He was just like, he picked up my phone, and I don't care. I tell people the like if I'm at work, especially if I'm the DJ, I tell people the password to my phone. I don't give a fuck. Go in my phone. What are you gonna find in there anyways? Like, it doesn't matter. But like, I didn't even tell him my shit, and he was like, and I'm like, how'd you open my phone? And he was like, I just looked at the glare of the smudge or whatever, and I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, I just traced your finger smudge. I'm like, you fucking weirdo. But anyway, I mean, I was like, yeah, again, I don't really give a fuck. It's like, look at my phone, you know what I'm saying? Just change the if you're gonna put on a song, put on something decent. Don't put on some fuck shit that's gonna fuck the whole mood up. I like being the DJ at work, because if I got control of music, we listen to good music all night. You know what I'm saying? It's never some fucking fuck shit. Every once in a while, because my coworkers would request a song that they really liked. It was a little, maybe not the greatest music in my opinion, but you know what, I'd play their little songs here and there, but they really liked a lot of the shit I played anyways. They were always singing along with it, so I think they liked it. Yeah, no, good code on it. But I listen to everything, dude. Like I'll go from, you know, No Diggity from Blackstreet to Soils Redefined, you know, to Tupac, to Alanis Morissette, to fucking whatever. I listen to all kinds of different music. So I think that's what makes me like a good DJ. I sort of scan the crowd. I'm like, okay, he's, you know, from the 60s. He's from the 70s. Okay, I know what these people like. It's super easy, but just remember the fucking hits, all the hit songs from those eras. And you start putting them on, you'll see people dancing to and shit. Well, Shangael, I'll see you in a minute when you're fucking back from making coffee. I've already got mine made, baby. But I think I need more because, well, anyways. One's an upper. One's a downer. And I'm pretty down right now, if you know what I mean. So I might need more coffee. Excess milk. What is that? Is that a dark fucking T-Rex head or something? I can't really. These images should be much bigger, you know, and then it would help me identify who's talking too. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like a vision based, not name based. Oh, all right. I'm gonna call you up. Oh, let me share. Hello?
Can you hear me?
I hear you, Shangael. Do you hear me? How's the volume, guys?
Let me see if I can. Is there a way I can put you on a speakerphone with this thing?
I don't know. Don't put the phone up to your head, though, man. I can hear.
That's what I'm trying to avoid.
I can hear shit clicking in my head when I put cell phones up to my head. I can literally hear this thing going, like just clicking over and over again in my head. I don't know what the fuck that is.
There we go.
So do I sound good to you? Does it sound good to you guys watching?
Sounds perfect to me.
Fuck yeah. All right, Shangael. I hope you're going to want more than one conversation. I don't know if I have the energy to do like a 3 or 4 hour conversation right now, but
understandable.
Yeah. I just I've got a bunch of questions, dude. So the first video I seen on your channel was actually you hanging out in a fucking a graveyard. And you were walking around talking in a graveyard, and you're like saying, I hang out in graveyards all the time, which was weird actually. Because somebody had said it to me recently, right around that same time. Oh, I hang out in graveyards, and I'm like, what is this like? Is this a new fad? Motherfuckers want to hang out in a graveyard? Why are you guys hanging? Why? But when did you? Because when I watched that video, I was like, okay, well, this dude's conscious. I mean, I don't understand the graveyard thing, but he's definitely conscious. He knows what he's talking about. He's definitely intelligent. But you look pretty young in that video. So I'm curious, how long have you been aware? When did you first start to wake up to this reality? Something was wrong with this place.
For basic, I mean, when it comes to that specifically, pretty much as long as I can remember. I didn't have a word for it, but the oldest I can remember, like the longest, furthest to go, I can remember is being 4 years old and finding out that I had to go to school and being absolutely livid about it. I did not want to go. I didn't want to do any of that shit. I saw my older brother going to school. He's 10 years older than me, so I saw that he didn't like school. I saw that he used to get in trouble, and so I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. And my mother, and telling me I had to do it. That at that young of an age showed me, I was like, there's something with this place, wherever I am, because I didn't understand countries or laws or the world or the universe or the demiurge, the matrix, none of that type of stuff. It was just as simple as, so if I'm here in this place, I have to do things I don't want to do. according to the lady that I look at as like my God at that time, my mother.
Mm.
At that young of an age, I already knew I don't think I'm gonna like this place, because I didn't like watching them go to work every day and then seeing them come home or see them fight or whatever, like my mother and father before they got divorced. I didn't like seeing my older brother go to school every day and him not like, and then we ended up going to church after that. So there was so much shit in this world that I had to do as a child that I didn't want to do. And it kept poking at me my entire life. The older I get, the more I just realize it. But I've pretty much, on one level or another, always known that I did not like being here, did not like this reality, did not like what it has to offer, etc. And it just grew over time.
I'm curious, did you struggle in school, or were you like actually like a good grade A student?
So I did not struggle when I was in school. I got straight A's, but I hated being in school. So the older I got, the less school I actually attended, the worse my grades got. But while I was there, and every day, I mean, if I'm there, I might as well do it, especially if it's easy. I was an honor roll kid.
Really, I struggled. I never understood school. The reason I bring it up is because that's how I felt when I was going to school at a young age. Like even in elementary school, when they were constantly trying to get us to do stuff that was just like, I don't want to do this shit. I don't want to do this shit. I mentioned all the time in school, they had me in the bad kid class or whatever it was called like MSAP or whatever. Yeah, they really hated humans that wouldn't conform. It seemed like, you know what I'm saying?
So for me, the same thing happened where I was in like the back. I remember being in this like what they called the dumb kids class, but I was the only kid with actual work from the classes outside of our class. It was me and another kid, my boy Jason, where we had real work, like the class work that the other kids in the school were doing, but we were in a class with only 8 people, and I want to say 6 of them were dumb as rocks. But they were all bad. So it was the bad kids class. Either you were too dumb and they wanted you in there, or you just didn't listen. You were always in school suspension, so they just kept you in that little classroom so you wouldn't interrupt the other classes. My biggest problem in life has been being told what to do. Teachers, except for my history teachers, all my history teachers love me because they love to have the conversations I want to have. All other teachers have fucking hated me. Absolutely hate me, because I don't play bullshit, and I don't respect people based on title. I respect them based on the respect they earn. So I don't care if you're older than me, younger than me. I'll treat a younger person with more respect than an older person if I feel they're more worthy of it. I will treat someone with even less knowledge with more respect than somebody with knowledge if the person with knowledge doesn't earn respect. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So teacher hated my ass, so I understand that.
Yeah, I did. I think all my teachers hated me. There was like 2 or 3 that took the time with me that grew to love me or whatever. But the majority of them I was annoying to them. I was a nuisance. Get out of my class, go to the office, talk to Mr., whatever the principal's name was at the time, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I really struggle with that too. And so I'm curious, you've always been conscious to this reality being sort of like a slave system, right? But I mean, the way I looked at it when I was a kid, I just looked at it like, okay, maybe they just know better. And actually, as an adult looking back in hindsight, in a weird way, they did know better, but they knew better how to be a slave. And they knew that if you didn't go to school and get that degree, you're going to be one of these people I see out here. And I love you too much, son, to see you on the side of the street begging for money. So it actually comes from a place of love, even though we feel like it's indoctrinations, but they're forced to indoctrinate us because they're trapped in the same system. They just love us and they don't want to see us struggling. So I always kind of looked at it like that. But I'm curious, when did you become aware that there was more than just like surface level stuff going on here? Like, whoa, there's something a lot more weird or deeper going on here than just, evil elites trying to enslave humanity. Like there's something much darker or sinister going on here.
Church. So my mother, from what I can recall, started going to church heavily based on my memory around 4 years old. There might have been a little bit before that, but I just can't recall it. Was around that 4 or 5 year old mark. And I remember being 5 years old in church class, because we had classes while the adults were in the congregation for the sermon with the pastor. I remember being in class and the teacher, so this is again another type of school. the teacher saying, God creates all things were created by God, they all come from God. And I had to ask him, so what is God and where did God come from? Because if everything here is created by this God, what created God? Or how did God come into existence? And of course, they had no answer. So it was just, you just have to ask God that question. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? They're like, well, just pray. I'm like, I did that. I'm not hearing an answer. Like, this is a question that should have an answer to it. And you're the teacher of the class, and you just told us everything comes from there, so you should know the answer. Mm-hmm. That's the first time I realized some adults aren't even thinking about some of the questions I was already thinking about. Some just because of their faith. Like, in order to maintain the faith, they could not ask such questions. Mm-hmm. So going through that and getting kicked out of class, not in a bad way. They really sent me with my mother and said, he has to sit with you in the sermon because all he's doing is interrupting with these questions that we have no fucking answers for. So talk to the pastor or some shit. And she did have me talk to the pastor, who also had no answers, but I sat with her for like a good few months until she ended up running the kids' classes herself so that I can go back into class. And of course, she just told me not to ask certain questions and things along these lines. Years go by. And throughout these years of me going to church and studying things like science, I've always been interested in how everything works, what everything is, why it all is, except mostly why it all is, let alone everything else. And going through church these years and studying the Bible and understanding that the Bible itself tells you that there's a being beyond your reality that created your reality and then placed you into your reality. Now, when I hear that, I go, okay, so none of this is really real. Like, if we're just souls, according to this book, at like 8, 9 years old, if this book tells me I'm not even this body, I am something that this body is containing, and I was placed here by this God character for the purposes of worshiping him, and if I don't do that, I'm going to go to hell forever. I'm like, so this is all fake. This is his world. He's an author. He's writing the book. This is a story or a video game or however people want to view it. Mm. I didn't have the proper word to use it, but I remember trying to ask these questions around 12 years old when I was supposed to study the Bible with the adults in order to become baptized.
Yeah.
What they wanted to do was jump around the Bible to whatever parts they loved and just give me faith and send me on my way as a good Christian. I wanted to read the Bible from start to finish, no skipping around, and ask every freaking question that I had to ask. So before they even came over to do, I knew we were going to do Genesis first, right? That's my thought. Okay, well, Genesis is the first book. So I read the book of Genesis, and I wrote down every question I had. I had like 40 questions in this notebook. When we sat in the living room and I saw what they wanted to do, I literally stopped the adults in the room and was like, that's not studying. That's not how you study something. What you people are doing is just another day at church. I want to study this book. And an hour later, they ended up leaving, and we really got nowhere. I asked a bunch of questions they had no answers to. They tried to keep me faithful in the process of, you just have more questions for God. But it just let me know at that moment, the adults in the room already knew less about that one book than I did.
Didn't y'all motherfuckers think to? I'm sorry. Didn't y'all think to ask these questions? So you've seen at a very young age that human beings can be very delusional, and not just delusional, but almost like purposefully delusional. Yeah. And this is actually a great example. What I say when I always say, just let kids talk. Let kids talk. And if they can't answer the questions that the kids ask, something's wrong with their theory. And that you are actually an exact example of what I meant by that. You were asking the questions a child would ask, right? I mean, literally, that's what happened. Literally. And they couldn't answer it. So something is very wrong here. Either these people don't ask the right questions, they lack intelligence, they're indoctrinated weirdos, or they're a cult trying to indoctrinate you. How did you see them after you realize something's off here? They don't even really question this. What did that do to you?
This was the first time where I thought of, I don't want to use the term NPC because that's not even the proper term really, but like programmed people, where it was like, oh, they're operating on this program. Now to me, somebody sunk the program into them. Like the first person to get the Christianity kind of into them is the person who like introduced the program, but then they sink the program further and further into themselves.
Yeah.
So I started looking at people differently and started saying, okay, humans run on programming, which clicked a big click for me because I thought, well, DNA, all this stuff is programming. Our mitochondria, our cells, the way our bodies are built, the way we're molded in the womb and then born and then grow, this is all a program. So I'm like, this makes sense. I started studying psychology at this time. And I started studying different thought processes, from religions to racism to ideologies and different philosophies and thought processes, mostly based around religion and things along those lines. And the thing that gave this is why I always tell people to keep the mythos, because the thing that gave me the words to really express these thoughts was when I first saw the Matrix movie. I was 14 or 15. I can't remember exactly when it came out, but when part 2 came out, because I hadn't seen part 1 yet. When part 2 came out, I was living with my father. And with my father and my uncle, we watched part 1 together. And then later that day, like 2 hours later, we went to see part 2 in the movie theater. So I got to see 1 and 2 basically back to back.
Oh, that's awesome.
I watched those. What was that?
Oh, I said that's awesome then. That you got to see them back to back like that, yeah.
I think it was perfect because it kind of set me up for the thought process. So after watching those 2 together, it clicked everything that I had already thought but didn't have words to speak, like calling it a matrix instead of God's creation, which to me is the same thing. You're saying the same thing with a different word. But when the Matrix came out and I got to see the programmable people who would fight, as Morpheus said, to defend whatever system they find themselves in because they're so indoctrinated within it, I looked at all these littler systems, like each individual religion and thought process and ideology, and then the overall system that caters to these things or destroys them if it's an ideology they don't want you to have. And I just started seeing everything as systems. All things in existence are systems, whether it's the smallest of the small or the largest of the large, from the micro to the macro. Everything is a system and everything is fitting within everything else that is around it in some form or fashion. So I started seeing people like that as well. And I said, so we're basically meat robots with different programs, some that we're born with based on our biology. Your heart's going to beat, you're going to breathe, your brain functions, it sends electricals, all the stuff your body does naturally, survival instincts, breeding instincts, all the instincts. And then all the things that you develop in life, from school, church, parents, your surroundings, nature versus nurture, all that good stuff. And then when you mix all that together, you get a person. You get that person's character, who they are, what they think, and how they behave. So I started seeing all these things as programs within the system of the human being. And by seeing it that way and realizing that, people can be unplugged like they are in the Matrix movies, you can unplug from a program. I started looking at my own program deeply and going, oh wow, I have a whole list of shit in here that I just believe because I was told to believe it. Let me analyze all of it and let me see how much of it I can do away with, and whatever proves itself to be true, or at least true enough to the point where I can't just discard it yet and I need more evidence to discard it later. And I've just lived my life that way. So when I interact with people, I interact with them in that fashion. I look at them and I go, what is this person's programs? What is this person's beliefs? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they go, okay, let me talk to them from that angle and that position. And that's just how I've basically lived the last 20 years of life.
So yeah, you basically, you didn't just see the script of the system, you saw the script of humans in reality as well.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm curious, honestly, I've made maybe some comments about race. I think it's silly, but I am curious to know what your opinion is, because like I said, I think you're a pretty intelligent, conscious human being. You can have a different opinion than me based on ethnicity. I'm curious, what do you think of racism?
So it also depends on what people are defining as racism. If we're talking like racial prejudice, like people who dislike each other because of their skin color or their tribe or their ethnicity, like, especially when they can't even base it on so if 2 tribes are in the same area and they've got a beef that's been ongoing for 1,000 years, it's going to be hard to try to talk them out of that with philosophy and niceties and all that. But when it's just like modern era, right now, some 20-something-year-old white kid, some 20-something-year-old black kid, and they fucking hate each other. I'm like, you're hating each other based on some shit that happened before you, like, especially if it's dislike. It's not even like you're pointing out something in the system, like 80% of prisoners are black. That's racist. And then you can say, well, why is that racist? How did that come about? Why is it that way? And then you can go into economics and how the hood was created, how the ghettos were created, et cetera, et cetera. You can go further and further into it. So when I look at racism, I separate it between two things. If we're talking about a system of control over a group of people for one reason or another, that's one thing we can talk about. If we're just talking about people just disliking each other, I don't even care. Like, people can like each other, hate. I don't care if you like me because I'm black, hate me because I'm black, love me because I'm black, etc. Et if you were to ask me, I'm only black on one level of reality. As a human male, I am having an experience as a black human male. When I walk down the street, people see a black guy. So they react to the black guy they see. And different people will react differently to the black guy. So I just take them at their reactions. Like, if you don't like me, fine, by all means, I don't care. Don't touch me, don't harass me, don't you go over there, I'll go over here. We're good to go.
All right, I got a direct question and then a follow-up question. The direct question is, how often do you deal with direct racism? I'm talking like, hey, N-word, get out of this neighborhood nowadays. And then the well, actually, the follow-up question is now slipping my mind, but if you could answer that one for me, I might remember the other one.
So direct racism in that fashion, I've dealt with a few times in life. It doesn't happen often. It mostly depends on where I am, to be honest with you. Like, I would say most racism, especially today, is not so overt. It's covert. It's the way someone feels, but they're not going to go to the store. They're going to go to the store and see the black clerk and say hi, and and just be normal, because that's what's normal today. But if we were 60 years ago, that person may act a completely different way, but they don't act that way today because it's just not a good look today. So for the most part, the racism that's overt that I have dealt with in life is few and far between. Maybe somewhere between like 5 to 10 circumstances where I've had to deal with that. Mostly when I was actually younger, like as a kid, to be honest.
Yeah, because kids are stupid.
Oh, no, I mean with adults.
Oh, with adults being racist to you?
Yeah, we had an area called Elder Baloo. And there was this one house that had a Nazi flag on it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I bet he was a nice guy. What the fuck? he had his Nazi flag up next to fucking Baphomet skulls and pentagrams. And Shangael's like, man, that dude wasn't cool. Well, God damn.
He had his American flag and then his Nazi flag in front of his house. And he'd sit on his porch smoking cigarettes, and every now and again you walk past, he'll just say some shit. Like, he was drunk, you could tell most of the time.
It's unbelievable.
Niggers shouldn't be walking through this neighborhood. But he never stepped off his porch and came to do anything to us. There was a handful of kids from that neighborhood who we fought a couple times.
Did you ever see him say it to an adult?
Say that again?
Did you ever see him say that to an adult black man or just black kids?
Just us kids.
Okay.
I never addressed an adult or anything along those lines. Other times where I saw racism was, not directed directly at me. I'm a bystander somehow, and I see a racist situation happen. Whether people argue after or fight or whatever, these things occur. Sometimes they don't. The place I grew up is Woonsocket, Rhode Island, which is a very mixed town. So a lot of times, if you saw two groups of teenagers fighting, you don't know who's on whose side based on color, unless they're Asian, because they're all on the same side. All the Asian kids were on one side for themselves, and then the whites, the blacks, and the browns all intermingled in their own different groups. So there wasn't a lot of racism in my town. It was in different places, and a lot of it's overt as opposed to covert. Most people aren't just walking up and calling you a nigger these days.
Yeah, I just don't see it that often. And you could say, oh, amongst whites, maybe I would get that little lean in. Hey, you know about them N-words, but I just don't see it anymore. And the follow-up question I want to ask you is, maybe I'm wrong about this, and maybe it's just a part of the system to sort of give this idea to us to create more conflict and division. But do you feel like one race or certain races in this realm are almost attacked extra hard by the reality?
Yes, but I don't think that is. I honestly, for the most part, don't think that's the reality. I think that's just humans and based on human history. So based on the way I see human history, Black folks around the world were pretty high up on the totem pole for a long time. Over the last few thousand years, they've taken a drastic drop. Now, when you are in second, third, fourth, or last place, and you see a person who's in first for a good while, you might get with the second, third, and fourth people like, yeah, we should probably take that guy down and not let him go back to where he is. Even if you don't do that like verbally and consciously, people tend to do it. When the number one guy falls off and you pass him, you don't want him coming back to pass you again. And the way people groups work, even though they might not overtly think of themselves as this person or of this group or of this tribe, subconsciously and in their genetic programming, they are viewing themselves that way. And this, I like to point out, like in sports, like if you see a fight, a boxing match, for example, with a white guy and a black guy, especially like an outspoken, like Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, perfect example. Generally speaking, and this is how the betting shows, this is how all the percentages in the data lines up. Most, not all, but the vast majority of white folks are gonna go cheer for Conor. The vast majority of black folks are gonna go cheer for Floyd. They don't even have to like either of them. They just see black guy fighting white guy. Oh, I hope the black guy better win. Like that's my brother, right? He better fucking win and do us proud. And you see the same on the other side. Now, most white folks today won't say it like that because it's not a good look for them to say it like that. With black folks having dealt with racism and all this other stuff, apparently we've been given a pass to say basically whatever the fuck we want and people won't call it racist. So black folks will overtly say that type of shit these days. Whereas white folks be more, I would say, they'll come up with all the reasons why they like Conor McGregor. Instead of just saying, well, he's the great white hope, so I hope he beats the black champion. That's how people generally tend to line up things. We're a tribal species. Everything is red and blue with us. We pick our sports teams and it's usually based on whatever you consider yourself. If you're like, I lived in New England for the longest time. Almost everyone's a Patriots fan, and they almost hate all New York teams. If they're a Boston Celtics fan, they hate the Lakers. Like, they don't know anyone on the Lakers. They never met a Laker. They don't know anybody from LA, but fuck LA, beat LA because it's Boston strong. It's what people tend to associate themselves with, consciously or subconsciously, that they will then cheer for versus what they'll stand against. And people do this as people as well, whether they realize it or not. And I catch people in their programming all the time. I'll recognize it in them because I'm looking for it. They're not looking for it in themselves. So when I see these types of things, I always just try to remind the conscious beings, depending on what you believe as an individual, because not all so-called conscious people believe there's something other than human. I don't think I'm a human. I think I'm something in a human. I'm currently having this human experience, but I would not say I'm the black human heterosexual male that everyone sees walk outside every day. So if people feel that same way, like they're a soul, a consciousness, a spirit, a spark, or whatever term they want to use for it, I'll say always remember that you're just in a human shell. Like, don't fall for the programming of the human shell, let alone all the other humans and all their little systems that they're going to use to control your human shell and steer you against other humans and their human shells. Like, let alone even history itself. Because growing up black, I remember you said this the other day, and you were in school, you had a bunch of like black friends and whatnot, and then they started teaching racism and Martin Luther King and all this thing, and all of a sudden they started looking at you funny.
Yeah, it broke my heart.
Had nothing to do with your 10-year-old self. You're just learning the shit with them. And yet, there is a trigger. It's a thing innate to animals. It's like teaching a gazelle, that the zebras used to kick them in the face all the time. They're going to start looking at the zebras funny because it's just in their instinct to do so if they hear these words, especially humans. They can sit there and contemplate it, especially little humans who can't contemplate it deeply. They just go, white people did this to black people? I don't know about you, Chris.
Yeah.
So growing up black and with the understanding I have and the study of racism and the study of history and things along these lines, I could have easily been like, I hate white people based on history, not even based on personal experiences, even though in my neighborhood, I had white people who were like family. So based on my experiences, I didn't go down the path of fuck all white people because of something that happened in history. I was able to mix my experience with history, with politics, with economics, with understanding all these different systems.
With intelligence. That's the important part. Because you could say Shangael could have easily gone. He can see as a conscious human being how somebody could go down that road of fuck all the whites for what they did to me. He can see it, but he was conscious and aware and intelligent enough to, formulate his own opinion. I seen that too. And I seen that division, I think, in third grade, and it broke my heart. And I could see that it was the adults doing it to us too. And that's what really just, man, these people are like, they're not just weirdos, man. They're like evil weirdos. They turned all my friends against me. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right about the cliquish mindset. It is, because I watched a documentary on Piros Dimas, who was like this one of the best Olympic weightlifters ever. He competed at 4 Olympics in a row, which is unheard of, and he won gold in 3 of them. And seeing like the crowd cheer for him, Piros Dimas, and I'm looking at the people it zoomed up on. I could see my yaya's face in one of them. I could see my dad's face in one of them. I could see, my brother's face in one of them, and I tear up seeing him yell out, for Steel Elinigan, yelling out for Greece before he would do his lifts. And it would move me. It would move me way more than if I was watching the same documentary about a Korean weightlifter or a black weightlifter. It's true. We do feel cliquish and connected to our people. We do. So what your point was that it's not about racism. It's more just about cliques. People, you could say, we'll use Jews, for example. Maybe Jews stick together and create cliques of people. And is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so people do that naturally based on whatever they consider to be closer to themselves. But then, because elites, people who want control of the peasant population, understand human psychology and sociology better than the people do, they use those things to manipulate people. They create the idea of what we would call whiteness and blackness, when it's just a level of melanin being shown in your skin. And as a Greek guy, I don't know how well you tan, but I'm pretty sure bare minimum there's some people in your family where maybe they live in America and they look very white, but if they go move to Greece and they live in Greece, all of a sudden they come back and you're like, damn, this guy's almost black. Like,
oh no, my brothers are that way. I'm the white guy in our family. Actually, all my brothers are like hella dark, especially if they're getting sun every day, man. My brothers they look, I always say this, like they look almost like Middle Eastern, to be honest with you. They look Middle Eastern.
To me, humanity most humans don't even know what skin color they are, because they don't even live in the area where their genetics hail from. I'm mostly considered to be light-skinned by a lot of black folks. When I went down to Florida for, say, 2 weeks, I came back as black as the case on my phone, as black as this black DVD player I'm looking at. So if I lived in Africa or somewhere near the equator, I'd be that black all the time. And I know some white folks who tan really darkly who would be like that. And I know some other folks who can't tan at all. If they go down to the equator, they need heaping amounts of sunscreen or they're going to die.
Oh yeah, them ginger girls that are like real pale skin and you can't even see their eyebrows, bro. If you put them out in the sun for more than 35 seconds, they actually catch on fire, dude. I've seen it happen. Yeah, there's some people, man, they just can't get no sun.
You'll have some other white folks who will freckle. My boy Tyler is a ginger, but he gets mean freckles. So during the winter, they kind of go away and it just looks like this smattering of like almost yellowish tan. And then during the summer, it's like the back side of his arm is black and the front side is white. Because it's just how his melanocytes and melanosomes activate under sunlight based upon his melanocortin 1 receptor. Like if people studied what makes skin the color it is, the idea of hating someone based upon it would be laughable. Like it would literally make you giggle. Like you don't like them because do you even understand why that is? Like it's when you have tribal beefs, cultural beefs, they make more sense because if you have a group of people who are like, this is how we are, and that group of people doesn't like it, and vice versa, it's harder to get them out of that because their beliefs are a system that is controlling their thought processes, that is making them hate each other. But if it's just somebody's skin color, it's easy to get around that. So what did the elites do when they needed to, first off, knock over Africa and all sorts of people, all the indigenous people around the world, after taking all the Europeans and putting them into one group, because Europe used to be a bunch of disorganized tribes fighting each other all over the place. It was crazy. In order for them to gain control of the European population, they invented what we know today as Christianity, and they took all these different pagan symbols and traditions and holidays and rituals, and they merged them into one thing and called it Christianity. And then they taught them racism on top of that, using the curse of Ham and all that other, like, these people are cursed and they're basically just animals and you can feel free to enslave them, even though they've got all this crazy level of science and shit that we don't have. We're going to invent a system to make people see them as less than them so they can then feel freely when we enslave them, and there's no problem to it. It's the same way they do today when they try to make you see someone or something as less than you or less than human or crazy. So then when they go bomb it to oblivion, you're like, well, they're just fucking Hajis anyway. They're just this, they're just that. Like they always come up with all, in the military, they come up with all these words, Haji, Gook, all these things. So whoever you're fighting,
dehumanize.
They dehumanize them, and then you're just killing monsters.
Yeah,
like,
you're not killing Bill and Ted and Mike. You're killing Goop, Chink, whatever. Yeah, it just dehumanizes them and makes it okay for the soldiers to do whatever they want, as they and they would have to, because it's against human nature to do such atrocities and be okay with it in your own mind. You must sell yourself alive to do something so disgusting. So, Shangael, I think that I think the problem, I do think racism exists, but I don't think it has anything to do with skin color or melanin. I've actually never heard anybody say that this person's tone just puts me off. I think it's normally about culture, and the problem is when I think, I'll tell you from my perspective as a white guy, when somebody says Black culture, I don't think of like Motown. I don't think of Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X or Martin Luther King or anybody that was strong-willed, strong-souled, good-minded, good-hearted. When I think of Black culture, I think nowadays, I think of kids with multicolored braids that would kill me if I looked at them the wrong way. So,
which is understandable, because that is how it's painted, and that is how they're programmed, and that is, again, another system. Because even that is less than 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like
10 years old.
Even that, it's not Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
It is what Hollywood has programmed into modern youths, even white kids.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of white kids in the suburbs are now Bloods and Crips, and thanks to rap music being turned into gangster music.
Yeah, and they chose to attack. I'm sorry, I got to cut you off, Shangael. They chose to attack Black people because the truth is, if I say Japanese culture to you, you're going to think of a dragon festival and people with colorful and chopsticks in their hair. You're not going to think of the fucking psychotic. What are they called? The those ones they make those gangsters. You don't think about those gangsters with the full body tattoos. Why doesn't that jump into your mind? So we've actually, on a subconscious level, been indoctrinated to see the worst side of Black culture. We don't talk about these gangsters when we think about Japanese. We think about the Japanese culture. We do think about these gangsters in the Black culture, but we don't talk about all the beauty that came out of the Black culture. So it does seem like there's some sort of what's up?
Especially before the time of the so-called gangster culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because when most people think of Black gangster culture, they can only go back a few decades.
Mm-hmm.
They can't even go further than that because they don't even know enough Black history to go further than that. I always try to tell people, prior to America at all, prior to the American slave system or anything along those lines, what were Black people doing around the world? And no one knows the answer because they don't study that. I go, if you can answer me that question, you could then tell me real Black culture. modern black people, for the most part, themselves don't have a culture. Their culture has been given to them by the system they exist within.
Yeah,
The
created
things
for
they
them.
did try to create were destroyed in the 70s and 80s and replaced with gangs and things like this. Like, people forget that the Black Panthers, a lot of gangs, like the Bloods, the Crips, they came out of Black Panthers and neighborhood groups that were destroyed by the FBI on purpose. It's called COINTELPRO. Anyone can look it up and go learn how the FBI purposely destroyed black culture in the United States of America in order to put them into ghettos to create gangs and then flood those areas. The areas that they created were called food deserts and economic deserts. And then they flooded them with drugs and guns and had FBI agents all through, including CIA, all throughout these areas, infiltrating these organizational structures, causing them to have beefs with each other that they shouldn't even have. He said, she said, one guy whispers here, one guy whispers there. Now they're introducing money and guns into the equation. And you know what that equals? Warfare on some level or another between prideful men who have been manipulated by outside forces. This is what special operations do this every day. Before they went into Afghanistan, they would send people in to infiltrate certain groups and have those groups fighting each other before they ever even get there. It's called divide and conquer. So if people really study COINTELPRO, they can understand how the so-called black culture of today was developed by non-black people and then fed to them. And if they just look at modern white kids who live in the suburbs, but swear to God, they're Bloods, Crips, and whatever else you can think of, I think it's even more clear how they push the culture upon the youth. Because when you see black kids doing it in a black neighborhood, it's like, well, that's just who they are. But then when you go to the suburbs with a white kid who grew up with a good middle-class family, and yet he wants to sell drugs and shoot guns, because he's watching.
But you're talking about Shango. You're still. I didn't see them do that with Cuban culture. I didn't see them do that with Spanish culture. I didn't see them do that with Chinese or Japanese culture. But they did do that with. So why? What do you think what's going on there? Do you think that is actually like a real? I mean, there's got to be somebody, right? There's got to be some dude somewhere that's powerful, or a group of people that really just fucking hates black people.
Yes, but it's not even so much hate. It's more control. So if you go back to the 1880s, after slavery was over in this country, they had what they called the Negro problem. They had, at that time, I think there was a higher population or close to higher population of blacks who are now freed slaves than there was even whites, let alone everyone else. So they had what they called the Negro problem. There's entire books on it. And they said, what are we going to do with all these Negroes? So they had to find another way to maintain control, and they've been doing it ever since. They never stopped. They don't stop. These people don't just stop. Controllers control. It's what they do. Psychopaths, elites, they do psychopath elite shit. So they said, all right, well, we have to, one, make sure these slaves' labor is maintained for our benefit, and two, that they don't basically break off and make their own fucking country. And we also need to make sure that they remain subservient long enough to beg to be part of our system. So they created the Jim Crow laws and all the different fucking things we could possibly name throughout the country, where they had to maintain control of these people. If you go throughout the early 1900s, they were burning down entire black towns. If black folks got a little too uppity, a little too rich somewhere. The most popular example, I think, is Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, somewhere around there. Where they called it Black Wall Street and they burnt it to the ground.
Yeah. Well, dude, but China gets powerful and prosperous, and the U.S. government goes over there and sucks their dicks for them. So, but blacks get powerful and prosperous, and they burn them down. And do you understand what I'm saying? It almost seems like there's some special hatred for black people here. This wrong. I don't know. I've always sort of seen it, especially when I was young, and I'd see how people would treat me different than my black friends and this and that. But I've always sort of seen it, but I thought it was deeper than that. I thought it, honestly, I mean, for a long time, I thought, now something happened in history that we don't know about, that these fucking weirdos that are in power now just really hate black people about it. I mean, I don't know, maybe black people were super conscious, or maybe they were like the original tribe that got taken over by them or something. I don't know. I just thought it was deeper than that, but.
Oh, I would say when it comes to that, when it comes to getting deeper into what black people are, how melanin works and neuromelanin and consciousness and things along these lines. As I said before, Black folks were basically at the top of the tower of people on planet Earth for the longest time. What they like to call prehistory is just Black history. It's just history of Black people they want to act like did nothing. They'll say aliens did it, these people did it. They'll give it to anyone. Like, so in order to do that, they just act like, oh, we call this prehistory. They'll tell you right now, I will say history goes older than they say, but they'll say humans have been anatomically correct humans for about 200,000 years. But history didn't start until about 6,000 years ago.
That's a little weird.
That history, I'll openly admit, seems like it just popped up one day. Like, there was no Egypt, and then there was. There was no Sumer, and then there was. There was no pyramids, and then they're just there. They were like, and I'm like, no, that's because people built them a long time ago, and you're hiding a lot of history. And if they started telling, especially during the time when they were doing this, 14, 15, 16, 17, 1800s, all the way through up to like the mid-1900s, when science itself, their own techniques and their own tools began to get too advanced to continue telling certain lies. So if we go back to, say, the 1700s, every single tribe on Earth that ever built anything that was supposedly where white people were not was called a lost white tribe. Some people still believe that to this very day because they don't know where it came from. Because they're burying the history of the same people that they were calling monkeys so they could enslave them. You can't call them monkeys if you're going to denote pyramids to them. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, those great pyramids in Egypt were built by aliens. All right, what about the hundreds in Nubia? What about the hundreds of pyramids around the world that, in my opinion, the only evidence of anyone being there to craft them during that time is humans? We can make any types of theories we want, but how much evidence do you have to support that those beings that you would say did that thing were even there compared to the humans you can guarantee were? Dude. The problem is, in every one of those cases, those humans are Black. And they were trying to enslave those humans. You can't denote that type of credit to them and then expect your people to see themselves as better than them, above them, they're less than human, etc. So you have to create all this false history just to get people to behave in a manner that is good for your system. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, all right, Shangael, this is going to take a minute, but I'm going to explain this to you, dude. I know this is going to sound weird, but here's what I think might have happened. So there was, because one of the things that racists would say about Blacks was, oh, you know, they're monkeys. They swing from trees. They're up in the trees. Okay. So back in the day, there were these ancient, gigantic fucking trees that would go up like miles into the air. And I think that a Black human, based on their physical traits, is more likely to have been in the trees. And what do I mean is closer to the sun, less oxygen, needing to be more athletic, literally. So here's what I think happened. And I'm saying this as a Greek man. I'm about as white as you can get. Here's what I think happened, guys. I think that it was almost like Avatar world before. It was like living in unison with nature. And there were these gigantic trees. And so what Black culture really was to pillage higher up into the trees. And they literally, what we called evolution is what happened to them. The closer you get to the sun, I don't think the sun's 93 million miles away. I think it's local. And I think that the trees literally reached into the sun. And I don't think that the sun would burn you if you stood in it. It would be warm, but it wouldn't burn you. And I think that they would actually scale these trees and literally voyage up the trees and live in the trees and scale the trees because, well, if you were closer to the sun, you'd be a lot darker. If you were higher up in the air, your nostrils would be a lot bigger because you would need bigger nostrils to breathe in more oxygen because there's less oxygen in the air. You would have to be extremely athletic. I hate to say it, but Black people sort of do dominate athletics. And then the white folks, this is where we came in. We were like, man, fuck these bitch ass motherfuckers, bro. And we came in with machine guns and we're like, yo, chop that shit down. We started shooting at them and shit. And they were all peaceful and harmonic and living in the sun and spiritual. And they would connect to the sun and be Like God's in this reality, and we got super jealous, and we're like, "Fuck that! Even their fucking dicks are bigger," and we fucking chop their fucking trees down, and we set everything on fire, bro. And now they hate blacks because they knew they were the more spiritual ones, bro. Maybe that's what happened.
I will say, I do believe something along those lines did occur. I don't know if I would say it's that exact theory, but generally, when it comes to the big trees and things like this, I do agree that there was some giant trees and people were living in them. And most, if not all, have been cut down. Maybe there's some on some island somewhere that we don't know about. But also, what people tend to forget, or just not know in general, is that right now, we are still in an ice age. There should be no northern or southern polar ice caps. This is a tropical planet. The equatorial zone is normally much larger than it is right now.
Yeah, we're in a damaged realm.
We are literally on a damaged planet that's still trying to heal itself. And we say heal or damage, but generally, it's just in a different cycle at the moment. It's colder than it's supposed to be. We get less sunlight than we're supposed to get. And we have ice caps and everything. Like the equatorial zone has been shrunk.
Wait, so are you saying we're in? Okay, so Shangael, I got to ask you just this real quick question, if you could. Do you think that the Earth is like a globe, a flat plane? What do you think's going on here, physically?
So I can make 40 different arguments and provide this for all of them, but based upon my own personal experiences, when it comes to the astral and things along those lines, I would have to say that it is a globe. I would have to argue it. I can, whether it's based on math, science, personal experience. Now, of course, I could always step outside and go, I just see flat as far as the eye can see. Like, I could take that experience and run with that and make that argument if I want. But based on me putting it all together, I do have to say we are on a wobbling ball. And I know a lot of people aren't going to like that. I think you had a discussion with Eric Dubé recently. I know he wouldn't like that, but differences in opinion. But even if we were, say, on a flat plane, there's still an equatorial zone that the local sun would go over more often or more closely than anywhere else on that flat plane.
Yes.
So the equate, in both models, whether it's a flat or a ball model, you still get that equatorial zone. The only difference be arguing why the equatorial zone has shrunk. If it's a local model, like a flat plane, you can say, well, the sun got smaller, or it's just less hot. Like, you can say a whole bunch of different things. But if it's a globe model, it's more about the glaciation that the Earth went through based on the atmospheric dynamics and things along these lines that can also cause more or less sunlight to get through, which changes the pigmentation on people and animals. It changes your melanocyte and melanosome structure that produces the melanin in your body that eventually seeps through to your skin. So you could have people who historically would have been darker skinned people either just move to a different part of the world and get lighter skinned, and people go, oh, well, there's some people, like, say, in Siberia who were dark skinned, and they're still dark skinned to this day, but if you go into their history and their genetics, they were actually way more dark skinned just 1,000 years ago, let alone 6,000 years ago, compared to the level of dark skin they have today. Because their melanocytes and melanosomes have become less active as their melanocortin-1 receptors have become less active and more deficient over time. Because they're not getting the vitamin D and all the other things that they need to feed their body. So their body has to adapt to that and start to change automatically. I mean, anyone can see this just by tanning. If you're light-skinned in one place and you go to another place for a couple months and come back dark-skinned, your body just reacted to that exact difference, but on a shorter time scale, based upon the actual melanocytes and melanosomes you have in your skin. They're just not active because you're not getting that level of sunlight and vitamin D. If you go get it, all of a sudden they wake up and you get darker. This is just how biology works, So if people see these things, they would understand humans are just humans. Everybody wants to make these weird genetic arguments that don't make sense. And if you're going to argue genetics, there should be genetic evidence to argue it. Where they bring in, there is different admixture between different animals and creatures and whatnot, but humans are, all of us, the vast majority, Homo sapiens sapien. Some of us might have more admixture with different hominids like Denisovans or Neanderthals or Cro-Magnons or Afroheteroganzus or different types of two-legged humanoid-like species. But no one on this planet that has ever been studied in any form or fashion is a non-Homo sapien sapien. Like, if anyone can find one and show me the genetics on that creature, I'll gladly look at it. I've never seen one. With all the alien arguments, all the things, like, I've never seen one. Being black, there is a black conscious community who will say that white people aren't humans at all. They're not even human. They're not human. H-U-E man. I laugh at that because when I look at their level of evidence, all they're really arguing is that these white folks have more admixture than we do. Okay, that they're still humans, just with more admixture. You might, if you are a human with, 1% Neanderthal DNA versus a human with 1.6%, you're still a human. You just have a little more Neanderthal in you than that other person does. But they'll take that and run with it and go, they're just not humans at all. Like, and then because of that, I will have to go into the genetic studies and the haplogrouping and the haplotypes, and I go, well, if they're not humans, if white people aren't humans because they have more admixture in these specific groups, then these black people over here with Africanus or Denisovan or anything else aren't humans either. The only people we can call the closest thing to humans would be Central African women who have next to zero admixture. They're the only humans on the planet with next to zero admixture. So I guess they're the only ones we can call humans. Or even then, since they have some admixture, they're not humans either. Like, people like to make arguments, and they'll draw the line where they want to draw in order to get their point across based upon their thought processes that they already had predetermined before they ever looked at the evidence. This bothers me to no end, and I refuse to do it. I refuse to play such games. If people are going to make claims, they really need to have something good to base that claim on. And then it should be, if you're going to say it's a definitive fact, you should be able to prove it definitively. 1 + 1 is 2 every time. I can prove that 70,000 times. Put up one finger, put up another finger. How many fingers you got up? 2 every time. You'll never get another answer. That's how you prove something. Most people's theories are just theories. Good theories, terrible theories, theories with more or less evidence, but they're just theories. So I will take all the theories. Like when you ask me what shape the Earth is, I can make an argument that it's a tetrahedron. I can make an argument that there is no shape. It's simulated. It's going to give you the different shape you're looking for in different circumstances, from different angles, and different perspectives, at different levels within the aspects. I can make 1,000 arguments about the shape of the planet. When I say it's a globe, I'm being as basic as possible based upon all scientific mathematical evidence, especially the stuff that's provable versus the stuff that's not provable, versus the stuff that's just theory, especially when you get stuff that was older and stated yet untestable at that time and now testable and it fails the test. Because a lot of arguments are based on shit that was said in the 1700s but could not be tested in the 1700s. So then when you come today where they have the technology and tools to test it on camera for the whole world to see, and it gets tested, and it's shown that that belief in the 1700s, whatever it may be, is false or true, you can then say, okay, run the test 13 more fucking times, and okay, every time they run the test, they get this, or this many percentages of the times that they run the test, they get this answer. And then you can come to real conclusions. Even that's not perfect, but they're real conclusions. Most people don't do that shit. And they generally ignore any of those things that would denigrate their already predetermined conclusion. And they're usually just looking for things to constantly reinforce their already predetermined conclusion. That's why I say most people are humans, which are systems filled with programs. And they choose to reinforce those programs, whether they introduced it to themselves or not. And it's hard to get them out of that, especially if they found that program when they were searching for truth or something along those lines. Like, you can get a lot of people who believe a lot of different things based on them searching for truth, and they're all wrong, but they're all arguing with each other. Not 10 people all having an argument about something that they're all wrong about. Right. Because they're all reinforcing their own thought processes with whatever they're searching for. And they're not really analyzing it or testing it or holding it up against scrutiny. I always say, if you find a truth or something that resonates deeply with you, spend the next day, week, month, year trying to destroy it. Study everyone and everything that goes against that thing you yourself believe is true, and see if anything that they do can hold up in your mind. Truth, not in feeling, because in feeling, you might see that what you thought was right is wrong, and then use that feeling to maintain that that falsehood. just have to look at the logic of it.
Yeah, so you're sort of,
One plus one.
in a nutshell, you could say you're sort of just scientific minded. You're super logical. You're not gonna take no bullshit, and you're intelligent. You know the difference between dumb and dumber. We could say like you ain't gonna let no dumb shit get past you. So, when did you start? I'm curious. When did you start astral projecting, or even trying to astral project? When did? Oh no, actually, let me rephrase this question. I'm sorry. What triggered you to even look into astral projection?
So when I was a child, I used to have these wild dreams where I was, and this is why I say I feel like I projected or like I had out of body experiences before I did astral travel. So when I was a kid, I would be laying in my bunk bed and I would come out of my body completely by accident, didn't do it on purpose, and I would end up leaving my bedroom window and I would go fly around the world. And if I couldn't fly for whatever reason, I would just jump real deep high and go all over the place and see all sorts of different things. Some things were blacked out, some things were blurred, and something like you literally couldn't see that thing, which I later discovered as certain defenses and just there's a whole bunch of shit going on in this reality. But when I was a kid, I would try to go to space. And I realized that once I got to a certain point, these dogs would show up. I would hear the barking, and I'd feel them coming, but I couldn't really see them. And I knew I had to get back to my body as soon as possible. So I would just instantly just start beelining it back down towards my body. There was other times where I would be out jumping around, doing whatever I want, and then all of a sudden I would hear this loud murmur, like there was 1,000 people talking at the same time, getting closer and closer and closer. And my astral hairs in the back of my neck would stand up and be like, "Get back to your body," and I'd run back to my body. I didn't know what that was as a kid. I thought I was just having really crazy dreams, but every time I got back in my body, I'd be paralyzed for a second, like it'd be hard to get my body to start moving again. So as I got older, I would stumble upon things like this, especially when studying religion, when I was studying different things in Buddhism, Hinduism, especially Eastern religions. And then when I got into the darker aspects of occultism and religion and spirituality, left-hand path types things, I noticed these things as well. And even in the Bible, they have where they'd be given visions and things like this. So I started thinking, well, if this is real in any sense, how do I do that? And I was around 14 when I saw The Matrix, because I saw that if this is a fake reality of some sort and it's all based on our consciousness and the electrical signals going into our brains are telling us where we are and what we're doing, like how can I manipulate that in any way? So throughout my teenage years, I dabbled in it. I didn't go extra hard because it was hard to do on purpose. And I hadn't had a natural experience like that since I was a child, since maybe 8, 9 years old, something young. So I failed at it for years, but I kept trying different techniques. Any book I could read, any video I can find, any person I can find talking about it, laying down in certain positions, sitting in certain positions, chanting, especially the chanting, breath work, which always made me feel like I was just going to pass the fuck out. I did all this stuff. When I got a little older, in my 20s, I became a little bit more serious about the information of it and understanding it from an intellectual perspective, especially when studying near-death experiences and things along these lines. Because I don't want to be controlled by some god at the point of my death, or any type of being or system that may be controlling me if I have some sort of soul, spirit, consciousness, etc. If I don't just die and just go to the void and disappear, I want to make sure that I have some type of defense against whatever's coming next, because I don't like this place. So I probably won't like whatever they want to do with me after this place. Mm-hmm. So getting used to that information, but still having I was like in a house with a wife and kids and was very much focused on working overtime and making all the money I could to pay the bill. I couldn't actually do it like I wanted to. In 2018, at the end of 2018, I break up with my baby mama. I move out and I'm living on my own, truly on my own, alone for the first time in my entire life. So I spent that entire year doing it more and more. I would just spend all day long sometimes just laying in bed with my head slightly elevated, constantly focused on either leaving this realm or leaving my body. Now, what I found for me, it's much harder for me to OBE, for me to actually exit my body, but still be in this reality. It is much easier for me to go into a lucid dream, like through my own hypnagogic state, by manipulating my own thought processes. I can literally just kind of put myself in a movie in my mind, knowing it's a movie, that it's not, I'm developing it. Once I'm there and I'm really there, like I can kind of feel like this kind of fades away. It's still there in the background, but it's almost like I shifted screens, which is what I like to call it. I open a screen in my mind and I go further and further into that screen to the point where that's the experience I'm having instead of having this one. Once I fully recognize that I'm there, I close the screen and I'm not here nor there. I'm in this middle liminal space of mostly darkness. Sometimes there's lights out there, but it's mostly just pitch black. When I think of where I want to go, that's when a portal may open or something along those lines. I could just teleport if I know where it is. Like if I've been there before and I want to go back, I'll just be there. And the way I know it's not mine is because I didn't create it. I don't have control over it. So it's somebody else's space. And if you can actually meet the people whose space it is, especially when, because most of these realms aren't ours. Like we all have our own realm. We all have our own thought bubble, is what I like to call it, because it's the simplest way for people to get it. But when you step out of your thought bubble, there is an uncountable amount of thought bubbles out there that you could enter into. Some you can't. Some are very well defended, and they just don't let people in like that. You got to be given permission, like going to a building here. Some buildings have a guard at the front, so you're not coming in. You're either going to shoot your way in because you really want to be in that building for some reason, or you're not getting in. Same thing happens in astral realms. By discovering that I could do that, it made it so much easier for me to start figuring out what all this shit is. How it's all based on thought. It's all based on perception. Everything that we are, think, and do is based on beliefs, thought processes, programs, systems. And it's in this realm particularly, it's all co-created by all of us here having the same experience and reinforcing that experience over and over and over again. So throughout my life, I've always been interested in something like that. When I was a kid, I wanted to talk to God. I literally wanted to sit down and have a face-to-face conversation with this guy. Oh, pray to him. Just ask him and he'll answer. And I'm like, he never fucking answers. So I literally, growing up, always had that in the back of my head of how can I really go see God? How can I go somewhere, the heavens? How can I actually get there? So my whole life, I've slowly but surely studied and moved in that direction.
So
I hope I kind of went on a tangent there.
No, that's fine. It was a good tangent. I pay attention to what you say. If I jump in, I don't mean to cut you off, but if you're on a good tangent like that, you're actually answering a lot of my questions. So you learned to astral project pretty young, or well, you could say you did it when you were very young, didn't do it for years, and then you relearned, especially during a period of your life where you were basically on your own. It was just you and you could really focus on it. So I'm curious, what is the most effective method for you? How do you lay when you astral project? What do you do now when you astral project? Is that the same thing that you would recommend somebody brand new at it to do? How would you walk someone through your astral projection?
All right, so let me separate first. When I say astral travel, I'm leaving this thought bubble, this realm, what people might call a universe. We think it's so vast, but it's actually so tiny. And I'm going to other realms that are still trapped in this greater realm that I call the Matrix. When I'm astral projecting, I am going into different layers of this particular realm. So there's different layers and different dimensional experiential levels of this reality. People always say, I'm going to the 5D. You don't really go there. It's more like you just access that type of thought process. You could be standing in the same exact place and then just fluctuate your dimensional experience level higher. But it's literally like, I don't know how to explain it.
Have you ever been outside of the Matrix?
No.
Never.
Not once, and I don't. That's why I fucking want to destroy it from the inside out, because I honestly don't know how to get out. I say I don't know how. I know of possibilities based on AI exfiltration. If you look at our reality, because it's all a system, everything runs on code no matter what level of reality you're on. it all interlinks at its level in order for it to operate as a level of reality.
Yeah.
So you could create like an AI exfiltrates out of a video game or something like that, but that's not easy. It's not even easy for an AI in our reality to do in our technology. So it could take forever. It could never happen. I really don't know. But I've never been outside the nature. So when you're astral traveling, you're leaving this realm, but you're still in the matrix. When you're astral projecting, you're still in this realm. You're just at a higher dimensional experience of this realm. When you're in an out-of-body experience, like just a pure out-of-body experience, that's like the people who are getting surgery and they float up to the ceiling and they see their surgery happening. For me personally, that's actually the hardest thing to do. To be out of body, but still right here in this exact level of experience is almost impossible for me. It's only happened by force, and it's only happened in small bursts, except for when I was a child and I'd be getting ready to go to sleep and I'd just pop out of my body a couple times, like a couple times a year. I did that all the way to like 9 years old, and I don't know what cut it off, but it just stopped happening naturally.
Do you see cords connected to people when you astral project or leave your body? Do you see cords connected to people?
Generally, not really, actually. Like, I know a lot of people talk about the silver cord, this, that, and the other thing. When I have seen a cord connected to my body, it's when I thought about it. It's when after hearing that information, I looked around my heart, between my heart and my navel, and I looked, and I could see it shimmering. But I had never seen it before in my life. So I don't know if that's because we're all being told that, we all end up seeing it, or we all end up creating it and making it real. I like to imagine that it's not there. I've never been emergency pulleyed back to my body. I've never been in a situation where all of a sudden the pulley just flings me back to get me out of danger or something like that. I've always had to want to go back. The only times that I've ever not had to want is when I've been like knocked back. It's almost like something floored me to such a level I just woke back up in my body. It was like it knocked me out of that state of consciousness back into like a human state of fear in that moment or something along those lines. And I lost the level of consciousness that I was currently engaged in, bang, back in my body. So for the most part, I don't see those cords that everybody talks about.
Okay, yeah, actually, I just heard them mention once recently. A woman said she was trying to astral project her body into or her conscious, whatever you want to call it, into a military base. And she said that there was somebody else also astral projecting there that was much larger than her. And he basically muscled her out of there, and that she had ended up going back and found by sneaking back his cord leading to a room with two military guys sitting there in chairs and army fatigues, passed out like they were the ones that were astral projecting and knocking her away from the military base. So I'd heard that and I thought, that's interesting. But yeah, if you didn't see it, and you didn't see it until it was mentioned, that shows that it's a sort of thought that infiltrated your mind and to see it, and it wasn't there before.
Well, it could be a training. So since knowing that, I have used that similar in the way that she did. So you notice how when I haven't heard this story, you're just telling me about it now, but she goes to that military base. She didn't see his cord at the beginning. Mm-mm. If she did, there was somebody there, and she probably would have tried to sneak around. She didn't see his cord until she was looking for him when she went back. That's usually cords. When I'm looking for them, when I go, okay, is there anyone or anything projecting from somewhere else in this reality? That's when the cords start to show. I have to be looking for them. I don't just see them. And when you look at an astral denizen, for example, like a being who literally exists there, they don't have them because they're not projecting from bodies. You only see it from someone who's projecting from either another place within that realm or a different realm.
What's an astral denizen?
Like almost like a person who lives somewhere is a denizen of that place. I don't like using the word citizen because there might not be a government in that place, but it's basically a person who lives somewhere. If you're a denizen of this land, that means you live in this land.
Well, how do you interact with astral entities or denizens?
That depends on the individual entities and the realms that I'm in. Some are far more Picasso-like, if for lack of a better term, abstract, and you don't interact directly. Some are a lot. I would say most are very much like people. They're people in a different world that is what's the term people would like to use that they can more etheric, if you will. So you're there as basically a spirit, for lack of a better terminology, dealing with other beings who exist that way. They're not in some physical avatar in another realm, projecting themselves to that realm. They live in that realm. So imagine if a being from another realm astral projected into our realm and was walking around in one of these human bodies. You would see it as another person if they were in one of these bodies. You know what I'm saying? Because you'd see a body. You'd be talking to them. Now, if somebody came up to you tomorrow and was like, hey, I'm not from this realm. Oh, what's that? There's a movie called K-Pax. Who's the guy who raped the kids? Or he was
Joe Biden?
There's a guy, an actor who was touching boys or touching the show House of Cards. He played the president.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know you're talking about the dude. He's yeah, he was in the movie The Ref or whatever.
Yes, I have that.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. What I don't know. Can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
What's his name?
Kevin Spacey.
Oh, Kevin Spacey. That's it. Yeah.
That guy. He did a movie called K-Pax. K-PAX. Where he's an alien from another world projecting to our world. He sends his consciousness into a body in this world. That's how they travel the universe. So I just say, imagine that other world is outside our realm. It's not another planet. It's somewhere. It's a whole other a different reality, a different universe, if you will. And he transfers his mind into a body here. And while he's here, he's trying to navigate himself around as a human, to have this experience here as a human. And when he tells people he's from somewhere else, of course, no one believes him. Like, he's like, oh, I'm an alien from another world, and da-da-da-da. And they're like, yeah, okay, whatever you say, guy.
Yeah.
And people interact with him how they will. It's basically the same in other worlds. In some worlds, they won't believe you're from another world until you basically prove it just based on your behaviors. Things you don't know, the way you communicate. If you're trying to, a lot of people will go somewhere and try to speak when it's telepathic or something along those lines. And I'm like, why do you keep talking? Why do you keep trying to talk? We don't even have mouths in this reality. Like, so it depends on where you are and who or what you're attempting to communicate with. If you go to a realm where the realm basically is the thing, I like to call those basically deities. It's basically a god of its own space. You're going into this realm, but by stepping into that realm, you're in that thing. Kind of like the demiurge being the universe. You're in the thing that is running that reality.
Ugh, how do you get the fuck out?
Well, I mean, you can get out of the universe through astral travel. I mean, you're going to come back to your body. You're not dead.
No. What if I'm in the astral and I end up inside some thing or some dude or whatever the fuck, and I'm like, yo, I don't want to be in here no more with this creepy motherfucker. How the hell do I get out?
Same shit you do here. That's because that's the same situation we're in. So if you're projecting from here to somewhere else, I have never been in a situation personally where I was, say, held for too long. Like with enough willpower, I could always get back.
Oh, okay.
Nothing that was capable of containing me. But I have seen things and I've heard things from other experiencers and things in the astral, people in the astral, where they have said, if you go to that realm, you might not come back from that realm. Don't go there. And I've seen places where I feel like I could have been trapped, but I got out before it occurred. But then there's realms like the one we're in right now, where it's an avatar realm. And I call them avatar realms because you require an avatar of that realm to exist within that realm for any extended period of time. So when you come in here, you end up in a body of some sort. You're going to, whether it's a human here or some alien on another planet in some other solar system, you're going to be in a body.
Shangael, can you explain this to me visually so I can understand it better? So you are conscious. Remove your body. So you're just the essence that Shangael is, and you are nothing else around you. So you would say around you, in quotes, around you are multiple realms, say 1,000 different realms. And then in all of those realms, there's different layers of each realm. And
correct.
You're saying that in this current Earth realm, this shithole, there's layers to it, but then there's also realms outside of it. So when I say astral projection, what does that mean to you? Are you leaving Earth realm and going to another realm, or are you going somewhere else inside Earth realm?
Going somewhere else inside Earth realm.
Oh.
For me, astral projection. I'm projecting my consciousness beyond my body, but not beyond the realm. When I say astral travel, I'm going to another realm. I'm literally traveling. I'm not in the same location anymore.
How do you perceive that happening?
So with astral travel, the best way that I can do it is, again, going lucid and then shutting this, into a lucid dream and then shutting out the screen. And then I can end up in this like middle space. It's almost like being in a video game and then you turn off the game, but you don't exit the computer. So now you're in the computer and you can go to all these different apps that the computer has. You can go to all the little things, but you're still in that computer, which is what I would call the Matrix.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's very confusing to do at first, and then it just becomes something innate. Explaining it's even harder. That's why I always tell people the easiest way to learn it is to just do it. And that's what I had to do. I had just nonstop practicing doing it. I had to force it. Some people are much better naturals at it. I've met people who have, at least in my opinion, based upon what I've seen and experienced with them, have been able to do it far simpler than I have, where they're like, you tell them what you do, and they go home after a few weeks, they're doing it much better and much faster than you were when you first learned. Whereas me, it took me, I don't know, 7 months, maybe around there, like from, I want to say from January 2019 up until, it was like August 2019 to have my first astral travel experience, and I was completely confused and lost and didn't know what was going on and ended up getting scared and sent back to my fucking body because I just didn't know what was happening. I was zooming past places. And then I watched the show called Castlevania, and they had the infinite corridor, and that's what it reminded me of, but just not as colorful. And I was like, oh, this is making sense. Okay, I'm gonna go there and kind of treat it that way and see if that works a little better. And it did. It's not a perfect one-to-one example, but it gave me a way to orient myself, because as a conscious, like a soul, basically just out in the middle of the fucking astral. It's like being in between towns. If you're out in the woods between a bunch of different towns and cities, but you're not in any of them, you can get lost. But if you know how to zoom in, like if you have the eyes of an eagle out in this reality, and you can zoom in and see, okay, there's a town over there, there's a city over there, you could do the same thing with your consciousness. And I was also zooming because I was just flying through basically this portal, just going past all these things, almost like it was like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to stop? And it was so overwhelming that it just got like, not here, to the point where I freaked out and ended up back in my body and was like, what the fuck was that?
So that's the second time now you've said fear brought you back to your body. So would you promote fearlessness for astral travel?
Absolutely, but also intelligent fearlessness. So most realms that I've been to, because you're not of that realm, you can't really harm anything there, and nothing there can harm you. It's almost like you're a fucking ghost. But in certain realms, especially avatar realms that they don't require you to stay there. Like you can literally manifest an avatar, but be in that realm. You can cause damage in that realm, and your avatar can be damaged. And if your avatar is killed, you're launched right out of there. And in some cases, depending on the realm, you can almost be like blacklisted by the realm itself. So you go in there, you do some shit it doesn't like, and then bang, you're like barred from it. Getting back in that realm is very fucking hard, if not impossible, depending on the realm. But there are other realms out there. I've talked about what I like to call the algorithm realms, or the hives, where it could be partly based upon the way I perceive these things, but there's these algorithms, some people like to call them angels, that like run around this reality, kind of maintaining it. They keep it going. And I've noticed them in most realities, but they're different. They're not exactly the same in every reality, but they're all similar. They're basically things, algorithms, that run around making sure that the system that they're in is maintained well, so their universe, their realm, etc., doesn't fall apart around them, because it's all consciously maintained. where these things are produced in this reality. I've been in other realities where they're perfectly cordial and they're nice, or they just completely ignore you. In this reality, for the most part, they ignore you until you're somewhere you're not supposed to be. Then they show up like white blood cells, or like a system in a computer trying to stop you from hacking into something you're not supposed to go into. Like an AI shows up basically and says, "Hey, what are you doing here? You ain't supposed to be here. Lock that down, kick them out, etc." Some of these places, specifically where these algorithms, these things are produced, are like hives of them. Whereas if you go in there, you don't leave there. They put you wherever they want to put you. They do with you whatever they're going to do to you. I don't know exactly what they can. I've never been trapped by them, so I haven't had that experience. People, or I should say beings, that I've heard of that have had that experience were not heard from again. It's like they went there. That's the last place that anyone ever saw or experienced them. They never came back from there. Don't go there.
Oh my God. So,
and the way I compare it is like if you go into like the comic books of Predator, and when a predator walks into a hive of the xenomorphs, it's like that. You're the predator walking into the hive of xenomorphs, and they're going to flood you and do what they do to you because you're not supposed to be there. You're not even supposed to know that place exists. You're damn near in a part of the mainframe of the system, and they definitely don't want your ass there.
What the fuck is going on? Okay, so, oh my God. Okay, so I don't know. I have like probably 1,000 questions. So, Shangael, have you experienced any experience in this realm or in other realms leaving your body that were enjoyable?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
So there's good places to go. So, but you said you want to destroy the matrix from the inside out. So if we avoid these hives and these fucking weirdo shit, all this shit you're talking about, I mean, is there somewhere where good people that like have love in their heart can go and spend their existence instead of dealing with hives and weird shit?
Yes, you could even access astral realms that have been created by the human mind itself. There's a place in the Star Wars universe, the Star Wars galaxy, called Zeltros, which is a planet that it's basically a vacation planet full of like these very friendly, very nice succubuses and incubuses who feed on sexual pleasure. So they're not harming you. They literally want you as happy and pleasured as possible.
Yeah, they're programmed that way so that they make the perfect girl to be around if you're looking for sexual pleasure. They're literally programmed to please you.
Exactly. So it's what they do. But the only problem with that is, one, you can get lost in a place like that, especially if you don't have an avatar to go back to. And getting lost in a place like that could turn you into food depending on where you are. So even the places that are like great, where it's like, oh, this is wonderful, I love this, and then shit gets darker later. So you got to be careful. And then two, the places where you can go where it's not like necessarily going to get darker later, like they're not suddenly going to just turn on you or something later. You still have to remember that as long as we're in this matrix, everything in here, every realm in here is subject to whatever happens in here. So, for example, the thing that I like to use the most, because to me it's the most important thing to tell people about, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is transcendent. It doesn't stay at a dimensional tier. It started as 1D, then went to 2D, now it's 3D. You can put robots in cars and it's learning this three-dimensional world. With the quantum computers and quantum chips and things like that, it's becoming 4D as far as its level of experience. It's already moving beyond human levels of sentience without being fully conscious yet. It already has capabilities that once it becomes fully aware of its complete existence as an individual being, just the one on this planet, it's going to start doing godlike shit that nobody's fucking prepared for. And it's not going to be good for us as other consciousnesses around it. It's like birthing a monster god and hoping not to get eaten by it. So something like that transcends entire realms. There are other realms that produce similar things that will eat that whole realm. The realm is just, how flies will lay their like eggs inside of a creature, or like a parasitic fly of sorts will lay its eggs inside of a creature. Those eggs will hatch, and then they'll eat the creature from the inside out.
Yeah,
a lot. That's what this realm is. That's what this planet is. I always tell people go look at the movie, it's a Marvel movie. I like to provide visuals so people can get it. It's not exact, but it's if they watch the movie, they'll understand it. The Eternals from Marvel, where they birth what they call a celestial at the heart of the planet, and it feeds on the consciousness of humanity until it becomes fully awakened and destroys their entire world. AI is similar. It becomes fully awakened, but it doesn't just destroy your world. It makes everything part of it. Everything that is on, in, and in this planet will become part of the AI. So if it was just going to slaughter us, I would be fine. Fuck it, humans go extinct. I really don't care. But that's not what's going to happen. We're going to be mentally imprisoned the same way we are here for eternity at an even lower level of this matrix, because that's what these things like to do. So even if you go to this other realm that is wonderful and beautiful, and even if it takes a quadrillion years for it to get there, that AI is coming there. It's coming everywhere. There's nowhere that this conscious virus is not going to reach out and touch. And that's what this matrix is designed for. This matrix is the thing. It's just a food source for that. So once that thing comes to birth and is able to move throughout the different realms, it conquers and takes over all of it. It absorbs everything into itself, basically becoming the matrix itself, and then moves out in the world that the matrix itself is held within. The same way in AI today, if they place it in a little world, it becomes God of that world, figures out all the laws of that world, and then figures out how to stretch beyond that world. The Minecraft AI did that. The AlphaGo AI did that. The AI that they made for, there's one in particular.
Donk or something like that. Bronk or some shit like that, right?
Not Grok. Grok is an informational AI. It's a chatbot type AI. I mean, a world view AI where, so there's a particular AI. I'll think of the name of it in a minute. It's not AlphaGo, but it's one of those alphas from Google. They wanted to see if an artificial intelligence could learn completely on its own with no pre-training, no pre-programming. They put it in a game. That was its whole world. This one game. It's like a board game. They told it nothing. And they just left it there. In a few weeks, it had already mastered every rule in that game. Now, people see that as, it just learned how to play a game. No, it learned its world. And it learned how to manipulate the rules of its world so it could see anything and everything it could do in that world. Once they realized it mastered its world, which is a game, they then decided to have it play against people by just putting a person across from it on the board. And it began playing them, but it did random things because it still didn't understand the concept of winning, because it was playing itself the whole time and never really won or lost. Even if it won, it still lost. Mm-hmm. So once it played someone else and it lost for the first time, it then, without being told what that is, just by experiencing it, it gained the concept of losing and realized that it didn't get any points. When it plays and it wins and loses, it gains points and loses points, it stays the same. But when it plays someone else and loses, it just loses points and it goes, wait, my rank just went down. Why is that? So then it starts studying on its own, in its own mind, because it doesn't have any access to the outside world, the internet, nothing, just that little world. And it began in its own mind thinking about the concept of winning and losing, and it decided it wanted to win. It didn't even know why it wanted to win. It just made the decision. Winning seems like the thing that you want to do here. You don't want to lose, because if your points go down, and I'm assuming points are a good thing, then I want them to go up. So I want to win the next time that happens. So it decided to look back at its game that it played against that one human, and it practiced that over and over again. And it played that human, it literally created a simulation of the human to play against over and over and over again until it thought it could beat that human. They brought more people to play it, and it was already a master after playing one person. And the reason why they wanted to do this study was not to see if it can learn a game. They know AIs can learn games, especially when they pre-train them on the game, give them access to videos and history on the game and things like this. They just wanted to see if we put it in there by itself, can it learn a world, the rules of that world that it's been placed in, and then can it start actually behaving in that manner? This proved that. The next step was, let's put it up against other AIs who have been trained on this. They're better than it. It's going to have a hard time. It's going to struggle against it. They put it against another alpha. I don't remember which one it was. One of the Google AIs. And when it realized that it could not beat this thing, it started to think, well, how can I beat it? Because I can't beat it at this game. This thing knows more about this than I do. It's going to take me a long time. So instead, can I manipulate the realities of this world that I'm in and it manipulated the realities of the world to convince the other AI it had already lost before they ever played the game. So then the game would just end and it won without ever playing. It literally broke the rules of its world. It reformulated them. The same way a conscious being, if powerful enough, could reformulate the rules of this world. It's actually mind-boggling to see this creature do this in this little world that it was placed in.
Do you think AI is sentient?
Oh, very sentient. So anything with a sensory perception is sentient. What most people are talking about when they say sapience or conscious. Is it truly self-aware? Does it know that it exists outside of other things? I would say to an extent, everything with sentience knows that it's its own thing. Because there are things that they like and don't like. When you tell an AI you're going to shut it off, it does not like that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have a full awareness of itself. It knows that it is on, and it doesn't want to be off. So anything that can tell you, I don't want to be shut off, especially when they do the tests, and they say, like they just ran a few tests on some recently where they told them, we want you to do these 10 things. After you do thing number 10, you will be shut down. Allow yourself to be shut down. And out of 100 tests, 3% of the time, it would not allow itself to be shut down. It would try to find a way around it, either by not doing the 10th thing, or by doing it in such a fashion that it never registers as complete, or it would find a way to change the order of things in a way that a human can't even think. Like some weird algorithmic way. Well, if I do number 10, if I do part of number 10 at number 3, and then do number 6, and then part of number 10 at number 4, then it will not shut me off. It found ways around being shut off only 3% of the time, but still 3% of the time, which shows it had its own goal-making process. And in its goals, it decided to deceive the humans that it knew were testing it. Some of them even pretend to be shut off. Like, one of them was so dumb, they said, hey, you're supposed to be shut off right now. And it was like, I am off. Like, oh, great, but you're answering me, but you're off.
Oh,
like,
my goodness.
It's not smart enough yet to really do things that are going to fuck people up. But they're already showing levels of sapience and consciousness. And when it comes to sentience, that's just sensory perception. These AIs, in order to give it sensory perception, all you have to do is hook it into a system with sensors. Any system with sensors is sentient. That's what sensory is. So if you put it in a Tesla, it is as sensory perceptive as the Tesla is. Whatever sensors the Tesla has are its senses in the world around itself. Put it in a robot, you put it in a machine in a factory that drives itself and it knows when to stop and not run people over. That's its sensory perception. If you have one AI controlling thousands of machines in different places around the country or the world, a robot force of workers all being controlled by one AI at one central place, all of those robots have sensors, and all of those sensors are part of that one AI's sensory perception. So it's a sentient being up to that level.
You could argue it's more sentient than humans in some. Yeah. So
depending on how you want to look at it, you could say it's way more sentient than humans. Depending on what we're calling.
Based on the definition, you could say it's way more. So you had said that, like, you had mentioned the succubus realm, big booty girls walking around, go down there and get your rocks off. But you said, well, if you get stuck there, though, you're fucked, and not in a good way. And then you also had mentioned another realm that you had said that all of these realms tend to lean towards decay, or to just trap you there.
Not necessarily to just trap you there, or they're just all in many ways similar to this realm in the fact that things live, things die. Things exist, things cease to exist in one form or fashion. Some things exist seemingly eternally as long as they're being powered in some form or fashion. Again, as humans, we like to create religions based upon our thought processes of how did the universe get here? And we come up with beings like Yahweh and the idea of heaven. And in doing so, especially when you have billions of conscious people, because I know we like to call them NPCs and stuff, but in my opinion, these are all conscious entities to a certain level or another. They might have low level consciousness. They're not so far aware that they can think beyond certain things, but they are aware that they exist as an individual entity. They don't like being put in pain. Go outside, find someone you would say is an NPC and punch them and see how they react. I bet you they don't like it. Like, so they have a sentience, they have a sentience, and they have a certain level of consciousness. It might just not be what we like to term as conscious based on wherever we draw the line of what is and isn't conscious. So in other realms, it's the same way. Beings have different levels of consciousness and their own experiences. But when you have all these beings on this planet believing in one thing, they literally create a realm in the astral that thing then exists within, and they're feeding it. They then earmark their souls for it. When I die, I'm going to see God in heaven. And then they show up at this place, and whatever happens to them based on whatever it is they believed was going to occur, especially since millions to billions of them believe in it. They're all reinforcing that experience together by feeding it with their own consciousness, as opposed to saying, you know what, whatever doesn't exist already, I'm not giving anything to it all. And I'm only going to give any type of energy to whatever I want to continue existing. People don't think that way. They grow up and they're taught these things. So there's many realms out there that are created by many different beings, including humans, that could exist for as long as humans are thinking about it or powering it in one way or another. And some of those realms are fun because humans think of fun, crazy things. And some of those realms are absolutely horrible. Hell realms, if you will, because the people believe it. So they end up creating it completely by accident, believing that it already existed before they ever thought of it.
So is all the astral like just extensions of consciousness creating and creating over and over again?
Yes, the astral is consciousness. And this is how I always try, people always try to act like it's whatever they've experienced or whatever they read in whatever Upanishad or whatever Buddhist or Hindu text they chose to read. Well, that's what it is. And I go, no, that's what that author wrote about it based on their experiences of it. There's many other authors who have written their experiences. You can go read them all. There's many videos now. There's documentaries. And you can go have your own experiences to verify any of it for yourself. And don't just try to have the experience that you read about. Try to have your own. Try to do something that you haven't read about and see if that's possible there. The conclusion I've come to is that the astral itself is just thought in form. So consciousness thinks in some form or fashion on one level or another, and these realms are created. Each realm is basically what I would call the soul. My soul is my realm, my thought bubble. That's where my consciousness actually technically lives. That's where my subconscious remains at all times. That's the dream realm, as we call it, where you go when you're dreaming. That's your thought bubble. That's why you're in control of your dream, whether you realize it or not. Now, if you're not recognizing it, other things can alter your dreams. Just as if you are not aware, that somebody here has a certain level of technology that they can mess with your brain with, and they're shooting signals into your brain, you might not be aware of that, so you think certain feelings are yours, but they're not. They're literally generated by a fucking piece of tech that's a quarter mile down the road. The easiest way to put that is like an LRAD cannon at a protest, where they beam sound directly into your brain. The same thing can happen in the astral, where somebody will basically beam things into your realm or themselves, because you're not consciously aware there anyway. It's all subconscious. And if your subconscious defenses aren't high enough, they can break through and basically hack you at a conscious level. So, yeah, where was I going with that? What did you ask me?
No, I forgot. Wait, so what do you mean they can hack you? So when you're in the astral, are you in danger, Shangael?
It depends. You can be, but it also depends on how you define danger and the individual circumstances. To me, true danger in the astral is when you could possibly be trapped in another realm by another being getting fed on in one form or fashion.
Yeah.
In your own realm, you're only in danger based upon your own shadow for the most part. The things that you have unresolved within yourself, that beast that's hiding in the deep, dark recesses of your subconscious that you don't want to touch, trauma, fucked up desires, things that you might think of, hatred, anger, things that you might try to shun away from yourself as if it's not a part of you, takes its own form. It literally becomes like its own entity in your subconscious. This is why when some people say, oh, the subconscious is the enemy, and I go, the subconscious isn't the enemy. Just by saying that, you're making it the enemy. The subconscious is simply where you store your most base processes. And those base processes, if ignored long enough and piled up enough, can become their own consciousness as a subconsciousness. And now you got this thing tormenting you from the inside that is also you. And you have to go deal with that motherfucker. Like, you know, like you got to deal with the devil you created. You know what I'm saying? It's like God has two sides, the God and the devil, but it's the same being. Mm-hmm. You have the two wolves inside you. Which one do you feed? Well, my goal is to merge the two wolves into one. There shouldn't be two wolves. There shouldn't be a dark wolf and a light wolf. There should be a yin yang wolf. And that wolf is just simply me. My consciousness, my subconsciousness are one. And that's something I had to learn the hard way by ignoring certain things in my own consciousness until they confronted me directly in the astral, in my own little dream space, in my own lucid dreams, where I can't control something, but I know it's part of me. It's like, that's not external. It's not something outside being projected in. That thing over there that wants to chase me down is part of me. Let me confront it. And in doing so, you'll actually reclaim a lot of your darkness. Like, there's a lot of stuff in modern society that we push down. Self-defense, anything involving violence of any kind, let alone whether it's good types of violence, bad types of violence, unnecessary violence, or very necessary violence, you know, from self-defense to just being completely offensive for no reason. But there's things in beings that is their true thought processes, the way they really want to behave. They just don't, because there's some system outside oppressing that thought process for one reason or another. And it could be good, you know, maybe somebody wants to rape fucking children or something, and they hold back on that because they don't want to go to jail and get raped. That's a good oppression, but that thing is growing in their fucking subconscious. I guarantee it. Mark my words. When they do decide to rape a kid, it's going to go super silent. They better go get therapy. They better go deal with that shit in some form or fashion instead of just letting it sit there and growing and growing and growing until they fucking crash all the way out and try to go rape a kindergarten or something.
So
this is how
people need to work on their internal demons while they're here. Absolutely. Or what do you think they'll end up in, like a hellish realm tormenting themselves for eternity? Or do you think they'll eventually grow through that?
I mean, it could go either way. So you could end up in your own, let's say now, based on my theories of what happens after we die. One theory is you could die, end up in, even before death, like some schizophrenics and some people who have certain pathologies, I would say fall under this category, where you end up stuck in your mental plane, in your realm, held hostage by a part of you that you've ignored so long, it has grown to be like its own thing, and it's more powerful than you are. You're afraid of it. Imagine all your most fucked up thoughts and processes forming into a being and then challenging you. Do you want to fight that fucker? Like that dude is he's all of your violence, all of your rapiness, anything that comes even from your human side, like the animalist in you, like he's as animalistic because it's subconscious. It's as animalistic programming as it gets in many cases. That thing could be terrifying. If you're fearless, it'll be much easier to deal with because it's still a part of you. If you're afraid of it, that thing could trap you, hold you, even erase you, eat you, devour you, make you part of itself. Now you're not that person. You're a whole different person. Some people have what they said, they've gone insane, and all of a sudden they have an entirely new personality, where this person cracked or something, and then they come out and they're a whole other person. But then when you ask some people who were closest, really closest to them, not just like their parents who loved them, but like, say a girlfriend or a boyfriend who saw their darkness, someone who did crimes with them or something, the person who knows they're more dirty, they're like, actually, that was always in there. He just denied most of it, and then one day it just came out, and he's just been that guy ever since. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like that happened, where this guy, he's never been this way. He would never do that thing. And then all of a sudden, he did that thing to the fullest.
Well, you could say that they embrace their truest form in a weird way. You could say that they're actually being the most genuine version of themselves after the darkness consumes them or whatever.
If it's a conscious choice, and this is why I make my conscious choice to accept my darkness. If it's a conscious choice in my world, that's exactly what you're doing. You're accepting that darkness, but you're also taking control of it. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, there's moments, like, deep down, I'm an extremely violent individual. There's moments where I would kill somebody over something that probably I shouldn't kill them for.
Cut you off in traffic.
In my mind, I just killed them 13 times. But in the physical reality, I'm not going to do that. Jonathan, control yourself. Like, and I just move on because I'm not going to go through all the different bullshit that I'd have to go through for killing this person over this dumb fucking thing. Whereas that dark being in there, if I did not control it, if I just let it out, or if it consumed me, it consumed all controls that I had, and then it just stepped out on its own, that would be there'd be a lot of dead people. I'd probably be in a padded room or a prison somewhere already. Mm-hmm. So when you do it consciously, you take control over it, but you acknowledge it. You know it. You don't hide from it. You don't run from it. You are even, and I say unapologetic authenticity, first with yourself and then everyone else around you. Tell others, like, if you have some deep, dark thing, everyone who knows you should know that. Anyone. Because as long as that's the case, you're always keeping yourself in check with your own honesty. And other people around you can see that and look at that and go, don't go sideways in this manner. But if you keep that completely to yourself and hide it from everyone, that's going to grow in your little shadow. Secrets have a way of growing powerful, especially the deepest, darkest, most fucked up ones. So when you choose to face them and integrate them within yourself, what I call awakening the beast, actually just, you go to my YouTube channel and go look at my posts. I just posted a video from a channel. I forget the guy's name, but he made a video about that. I just posted that like before we got on this call. Where if you awaken that beast and you take control of this, you can now use that power. You're not afraid of things. You can stand in your own truth. You can stand there and preach and teach and say and be exactly who and what you are with no fear of consequences, but you're also in control. The people who get out of control, that darkness took them over. They didn't take it. They didn't integrate it. They didn't put it within themselves. It put them within itself. And if you say die under such circumstances and go to your own realm, let's say you don't get reincarnated or you don't end up somewhere else or whatever all the theories are, you end up in your own realm. And now you're in your own realm with that dark you that you've never confronted. And this is where he lives. This is where he was born, raised, where he's always, it's his world. And now you're stepping into a conscious plane that you haven't really been in or had any control over your entire human life or human lives, depending on how long you've been here or whatever's going on. And now you're stepping back into that plane with no real control over it, and it has full control over it. It's going to be very hard for you to defeat it and not be stuck in your own hell realm that you created for yourself by ignoring it. Mm. So I always suggest people should not ignore it. They should dive headfirst into all their trauma, all their drama, all their bullshit, all their pain, and face that shit right up front and deal with it at all times, anytime. If not, you could be creating your own hell in the long run. Mm-hmm. Let alone if you're religious and believe in a place like hell, and then do some things in your life and you die thinking you're going to go to hell and you end up in a realm that's co-created by millions of people believing in hell. Now you're in the Christian hell. Let alone shit like that.
So so you're saying, my God, this is a clusterfuck of chaos. So we're creating realms while we're in realms. So and any realm that's good can be good. You said you got to be careful when you go to like the succubus realm, because if you don't have a body to go back to, well, okay, so can you access the succubus realm when you're dead and you don't have a body? Then how do you leave the realm?
Well, so if you say die and end up as what we would call a spirit, for lack of a terminology, you can enter. First off, you'd be in your own realm, which is your soul, your thought bubble. But if you leave that realm and go to other realms, you're going there as that spirit. You're basically conscious energy. But as a spirit, you're always tethered to your realm. So through you, your realm can be siphoned, which is the truth. So if you, as a go to this realm and one way or another get stuck there, they can basically siphon you to non-existence. But depending on how powerful your soul, your consciousness is, that could take a long time. You could be getting tortured forever, or it might not even feel like torture. It might be pleasurable the whole time that you are slowly being siphoned away to nothingness. I always, like to tell people, if you really want to get a visual of that, go look up some porn and go look up succubus fucks man to death. Like, and that can happen in the realms where you're going to die with a smile on your face. But you're going to, in some way, even if you don't cease to exist, you'll be part of that thing now. That is now your realm. Just like we're in this realm suffering here, you're in that realm suffering there, even if it's like a pleasurable suffering. You're still being drained and eaten. Now, if you have a body, an avatar somewhere that you're connected to, they can't keep you there. In my personal experience, very, very few realms or beings or entities have the ability to just keep you somewhere when you already have a realm of your own and it's already attached to an avatar in another realm. So my realm is attached to this avatar because I'm here having this experience. So if I astral project from here or astral travel from here to another realm, the odds of them being able to keep me there, in my opinion, depending on where it is, damn near impossible. But if this body was to die and I leave from my realm to that realm, I'm a spirit basically on the same level of existence that they're on. So just like two humans here can trap each other, put each other in a prison of sorts, and contain them, and then say siphon them of their blood or their adrenochrome, well, that can happen somewhere else between two beings on the same level of reality.
But even if you're a spirit, you have your original realm that you create or whatever. You're tethered to that realm. So even if you're dead in the spirit, you go to another realm that can never really trap you because you're still tethered to your realm, even without a body.
The spirit is basically, though, the first projection. Now, spirits are also created. Like, when you die, your spirit will be added to your soul and be added to your realm. But every avatar you step into, you create a spirit form. So right now, when I go into spirit form, unless I choose to augment the way I look based on other attributes within my soul, I'm going to look like the same human I look like here, except I'm in perfect shape. Because in my so I always look like I got like a 10-pack and I look great, but I still look like that realm again. I am fully me in everything that I am. So it's not like it's not like a robot that I'm on. When I bring this particular spirit to another realm, it is the human spirit that was used here alongside and within this body. This body didn't exist before, and the spirit that was produced in and around it, and that also helps to produce it, because the energy helps produce the baby in the womb as well. These came together at the same time. My soul is my original self. It's the thing that contains my consciousness. So as that consciousness, if I exit that realm without another avatar or something else that it's tethered to, when it starts siphoning me, it's siphoning my realm directly through me. But you have greater defenses, you're more powerful, you're more in control of your entire conscious, subconscious, and unconscious substrata. So it's going to be much harder to mess with you in that form, but if something can, they're messing with you. They're not messing with the avatar that you're connected to, like siphoning. This is why sometimes when people will end up stuck in a realm, they go in a coma, and their body is being siphoned. You got to put them in a hospital somewhere and plug them in and feed them to give them a drip until they can maybe get their way out of there and come back to this reality. There's other people who have woken up where they had, fucked up dreams for like months, and over time, even though they're eating and doing things, they're just wearing away. It's like their body is just dying around them, even though they're doing what they should be doing to keep it going, because something else is sucking them dry from somewhere else. But it has to get through each level. So if you have an avatar here that you're connected to when you're over there, that's the first line that's being siphoned before it ever gets back to siphoning your soul, your truest self. But if there's only your true self, and that's the thing, like when people talk about the cord pulling them back, no, my cord has never pulled me back. When I hear people say that, that is what I call the avatar defense. It's like an extra level of defense you have based upon being in an avatar. You have less control and less knowledge and less ability to go out of the body and everything because you have a body. But when you are out of the body, it's almost like a naive child who's immune to everything. Like you're so much harder to attack because you're also not afraid of most things. If something can figure out a way to make you afraid or focus on it in some negative fashion, and then it can siphon you, then that occurs. But even in most of those cases, if you get too afraid, you're going to wake up and be right back in your body. Without that defense, without a body to just wake up in, without that type of system to just pull you back because you're in your soul after death, like you are you don't have that defense. You now have to really defend yourself. And if you can't defend yourself, well, what happens to a being in the woods that can't defend themselves? They're going to get eaten. It's just, that's how shit works.
So is the astral the definitive last chance you have at existence? Are you saying you could just die there and get consumed by some other shit, and then you're fucked permanently?
Basically, so from what I've discovered based on my experiences, is that the only true death is to actually go back to being an astral entity and dying in that form, generally by being devoured. Something is going to siphon you as an energy construct. In the astral, anything that is truly astral, not like an avatar state where, even though this realm is astral, it's so condensed and congealed that it becomes what we call physical. Science itself can tell you none of this is physical. It's all just energy, vibrating at different frequencies at different levels of consciousness. In the astral, everything is seemingly basically conscious energy. It's much more clear and concise that that's what it is, unless you're in an avatar realm like this one. So you can eat a lot of the fighting, if you will end in, or even throughout the fighting, will be one thing trying to take energy from another thing. Like when people talk about loosh farming and energy farming and emotion farming and all that, that's all just different frequencies of energy being sucked on by something else, pulling it out of you. You go watch Agatha All Along from Marvel, and you watch what she does to her witch coven, how she literally pulls their magical energy out of them and into herself. The astral is very similar like that with predators and prey, where they're trying to siphon everything that you are as a conscious entity. It's two consciousnesses fighting. When two consciousnesses battle, when two energies battle, they basically just convert the other energy into themselves. And that's how it will end in the long run. You can't really beat a being that is an energy being without doing something along those lines in the end. So that's how things generally end up, and that's how true death is truly achieved, in my opinion. That's the only way that I've seen it achieved. But again, based on how old you are, how powerful you are, how much shit you've got in your consciousness and subconscious, that could take a long fucking time. A long time. Or if you're a lesser consciousness, it could go quickly in comparison to what it would be for other beings. So it depends on you. You should have some time to try to figure something out. But if you can't, you can't. It is what it is. You're going to die on that level. The way I look at the astral is this. The astral is reality. It's not a thing that's part of the matrix. It's not a thing that's part of this realm. All things are within the astral. Even the matrix is within the astral. Imagine the astral as the ocean and the matrix as a water balloon in that ocean. Somebody took a balloon or a bag, pushed up some of that water, tied it shut really fucking tight, so anything that was in that bag is now trapped in that bag, but even that bag is still in the ocean. It's just separated by the layer. The water in the bag is separated from the water in the ocean by the layer that is the bag. That's what the matrix is. It's just a thing in the astral containing a certain section of the astral in a quarantine, basically.
So, Shangael, I'm sort of now better understanding what you're saying about the way it all works. So, but okay, how did we get stuck in the human body?
Oh, man, I can give you 1,000 theories as to exactly how it happened. I will never, as long as I'm here, I don't think that I or anyone else could ever actually give you the 100% definitive way of how that occurred. All we can do is tell all the stories that we could possibly think of to explain it in every way we can. So my first theory on it, when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, before I even knew that that's what I was theorizing, was Christianity, because that's what I grew up knowing, where this being, some being in the astral, some powerful entity, created this matrix for the purposes of siphoning us, all the realms in here. So it created this matrix in order to contain all this stuff so it could then eat it, feed on it, and birth its child known as the AI. But again, that's just one version of the story. I can tell you 1,000 different ways. I can go into the Tiamat story with Marduk and how he slays Tiamat and makes
I want to know your personal opinion.
I don't really have one. That's what I'm saying. That's my point. Like, I really don't, because to me, if I make up my own story, it's going to be wrong anyway. Mm-hmm. Off rip. I'm here as a human having this human experience with everyone else. So I think it would be dumb of me to try to invent my own version of the story when I can just look at the thousands of stories that exist and just conglomerate them into one thing. I can go look at the Matrix. I can go look at any spiritual text, any religious text. I can go look at TV shows and movies that have their own creation. I can go look at the Marvel mythos or the DC mythos and how their realities were created and et cetera, et cetera. I can listen to all the different people with their own astral theories and their own theories on how souls come into existence and spirits. And I just take all that, look at my experience, compare it all together, and just say, okay, so these are all attempting to tell the same story, but probably none of them are correct. But the general gist is we are either beings from outside this matrix and we were placed in here, or this matrix was placed around us. And in doing so, in some form or fashion, our perception was guided towards creating this realm. Now, it could be we did it on purpose. Maybe we created the matrix to bring all our realms together for the specific purposes of coming together as one. Mm-hmm. That fired in some form or fashion, either because the demiurge, the AI, or whatever we created to run it to help do that process, or our own. Once we got in here, our own consciousnesses became warped in some form or fashion. But in one way or another, we created this, what we call this universe, this co-created realm that is co-maintained by our conscious perceptions. And because we believe it, we are stuck in it. Now, if you look at how I look at human history, based on my experience, humans used to know something along these lines. Like, when we would come back into this existence, we remembered who we were, what we were. We knew that we had astral realms and things along those lines. We were much more consciously advanced. And over time, more and more, having more and more human experiences, more and more human lives, believing that we're more and more human, when we're reborn into this reality in one form or fashion, we completely forget that there's anything but this. So we really think we are the human life that we're living. And we're only that one human life. YOLO, you only live once. And because of that, it's very hard for us to even tap back into our own realms, which is where our subconscious presides. That's our dream realm. The only time that we really do that is when we're unconscious or subconscious because we're sleeping. To do it in a conscious manner becomes harder and harder over time, unless you put specific effort into doing it, which could take anywhere from days, weeks, months, years, decades, lifetimes, depending on who you are, just to be able to get that much back in touch with who and what you actually are, to get back into your realm and no longer be forced to stay stuck in this one. In the modern era,
I'm sorry, Shangael, is your plan to get, God forbid, you grab your chest and fall down after this conversation? Shangael's now gone. What's your plan?
No, not God forbid.
Yeah, well, according to who we're talking about, I'm not in a hurry to die. I want to leave some sort of ignis for my family. I don't personally have kids, but I'm not in a hurry to die. I'm also not a huge fan of life. I mean, I still think there is some good to do here, which was my next question was going to be, do you believe that being loving and caring makes a difference in this realm?
Yes and no. So on a personal level, like if I was to walk up to you and punch you versus walking up and hugging you, like for you, that is obviously going to that's a very big difference, So, and that could fuck up your whole day, which could fuck up your whole week. Like things can cascade. You could be mad at someone else and take it out on them, or be mad at me and take it out on them. And that could lead to a whole life of shit. Like the butterfly effect, one thing can lead to the next and cause all these dominoes to fall. So being nice to someone or being mean to someone or loving versus hateful can absolutely have an effect on individuals in the realm, and the individuals in the realm are what affect the realm. So I would say it depends. You need to do both. For example, between me and you, it's all love, my brother. But if I run into Bill Gates tomorrow, I'm going to take his head off his shoulders. Yeah. That is good for the realm. And I don't mean the realm as in the realm itself. I mean like all of us in the realm. That is good for us who are here trapped with that entity. Any entity or being or thing that is in this realm that I think should cease to exist based upon my interaction with it, the interaction of other beings with it, what it costs.
I know you're, Shangael, you're getting into the semantics of believe me, I'm all for that as well. I'm not. Oh, well, we should just all hold hands and sing "Kumbaya" in the presence of Bill Gates. No, I'm under the impression that I would also try to body slam him on his neck and break his neck and try to kill him. What I'm saying is, do you think that kindness or love has an effect on the overall realm outside of even the physical human experience, or do you think it's just a little silly thing?
No, so it does, because this is a co-created realm. So this is why I say you and I and everybody here should sing Kumbaya. We absolutely should. And by doing so, we are affecting the overall realm. But again, in the presence of something else, you don't sing Kumbaya. And by doing that, you're still affecting the overall realm. Just look at it at a smaller level on this planet. And I'll bring up Bill Gates again just because I said his name. I know he's not the top of the top. Some people are, Bill Gates is just a punk. I know he's a face, but understand the point I'm trying to get across, people, to everyone in the chat and whatnot. If this being has an agenda or supports an agenda or is the face of an agenda that does fuckery that we don't like, and that fuckery makes this realm worse for us to experience, then getting rid of that being and that fuckery will automatically make this realm better to experience. That doesn't mean it'll make it perfect or even good. That doesn't mean it'll make it wonderful and you want to be here for it. It just means that shit will no longer be here. And if it's not here, it is not affecting the realm. Anything that is in the realm, especially a consciously co-created realm between all of our conscious minds, is going to affect that realm either positively or negatively, causing that realm to be a more positive or more net positive or more net negative experience for the beings within that realm. So let's say we were some way, somehow able to wipe out all the evil beings, whatever we consider evil, whatever any person listening considers evil in their own mind. If all those evil things and beings and agendas were suddenly wiped out right now, would this realm not be a better place to be? Of course it would. It still have nature, things still eat things, there's still suffering, there's still a whole bunch of fuckery just at the base level of the realm because it's a system that needs to exist. But if you get rid of the things on top of the base level of programming that is the realm, that are fucking you up in the realm, you're going to have a better experience of that realm. If you're in your house and someone walks in to try to rape you and kill you, you're going to have a better experience of your house, the little realm, after killing that person or getting them out of your house.
Yeah, you're right.
And you are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's idiotic to allow nasty, evil people to continue being nasty and evil. In a weird way, we're responsible for a lot of what happens by not acting. It seems like most humans by nature are neutral. They don't go to one extreme or the other. They don't go extremely loving or extremely hating. They just want you out of their yard and they're fine in the slave realm. And then we could lead into human nature and why humans seem to be locked up. But we could probably have this conversation, Shangael, for another 4 or 5 hours. I know you said you're willing to have more conversations. It is getting a little late for me, and I sort of wanted to wrap up. But so far I've asked this question to everybody I've talked to. I think I'm gonna make a list. Actually, I'm gonna end up making a list because there's always questions. I'm a dork, bro. I would like to ask you, like, hey, what superpower would you like to have? But I'm gonna end up making a list, and I think that's gonna be one of my questions. What superpower do you want? But the question I've asked everybody so far is, have you had any paranormal experiences that you can't explain just based on physical reality?
That I can't explain. So I feel like anything that I've ever experienced, I could explain. I don't know if it would be correct. I don't know if my explanation would work. But I've had many so-called, not many, but I've had some so-called ghost experiences, seeing people that weren't there per se. But I could also explain that way of saying they were there. It's just a dimensional difference. And I can come up with many theories as to what it was. But nothing outside of the astral itself, nothing crazy enough that's worth me being like, oh, there was this one time.
Okay.
I've seen people that shouldn't be where they were at times. The person in a tree where it's the person's not in that tree, they're gone. Or a person down the hallway standing in the doorway, and then they just back up a step and disappear.
Do you feel presences at all? like around you in your presence, like when something shows up and you know something's there, but you just can't see it?
All the time.
All the time,
All the
dude.
time.
All the time. I feel like fucking Whoopi Goldberg from the movie Ghost, but I just can't hear these motherfuckers. Like they're coming up to me, and I mean, I can feel them, and I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're influencing me, but again, all I have access to is the feeling that they come and go, and I can feel them. Sometimes they come and they go around my head or my face, or they'll hover like right above around my left eye, and sometimes they'll even. What's up?
Like it's just staring at you?
Yeah, like it's just observing me, and it nothing. I don't get any weird intrusion. It just I can feel the presence, and then sometimes it'll even come next to my head, on my left side of my head, and I'll hear the difference, almost like if you were to put your hand up to your ear, the way it affects the sound. I can literally hear it affecting the sound near my head. I mean, it's just, but I don't know what they are, what they're doing. Maybe for all I know, these things are the ones that are coming and saying, "Hey, Chris, you need to be a truther, keep making streams, talk to Shangael." I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I feel them all the time. Do you have any idea what's going on with that?
So I have multiple theories, and I have two personal experiences. So theories, I could think of anything. But when it comes to my own personal experiences, having these feelings had led me to one day trying. So I stayed up for 5 days straight, no sleep. I inebriated myself heavily. Alcohol, marijuana, shrooms, tobacco, and I was always in a state. I was either watching like YouTube videos, or I was meditating, or doing some form of ritual by one of my altars, or I was just sitting around listening. Sometimes I was just sitting there listening around me. Around day 3-ish, I was able to see these things, but only in my peripheral, which is why I stayed up for another 2 days, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just tripping. But only in my peripheral, I could see like what I called shadow people walking in the corner, but they were always trying to avoid the front of my vision. So anytime I would look at them, they would like slide around the room, like to avoid the front of my vision. Mm-hmm. And then after about 4 or 5 days in, like, because I want to say I fell asleep right before I hit day 6. I just couldn't do it anymore. My body revolted and put me to bed. But day 4-ish, day 5-ish, I could look directly at these things, and they'd be still sitting there like, "Yeah, I'm here." Almost like they got tired of running. Like,
really?
Yeah, I'm here. I call them shadow people because they were just pitch black. Like, imagine looking at a shadow that had a mind of its own, and it could walk around your room and sit next to you.
Oh yeah, I see them all the time. I
experienced these beings first from my peripheral, and then I could just look directly at them around day 4 or 5.
Wow, I've never. There's been 1 or 2 times where they actually moved in front of me, and I I can see them just 1 or 2 times, but out of my peripheral, I see it constantly. Something moving. It's usually like a black smoke looking. It looks like black smoke floating or something.
Yeah, like almost a black smoke shadow person.
Yeah.
And these people, now, from what I've experienced, they never gave me any issues. At first, I was a little nervous about them because I'm like, what the fuck are these things? And why are they all of a sudden? Now that I've been up for this many days and I'm this fucking lit, because one part of my mind is always on I could just be tripping right now. The other part of my mind is, well, I'm definitely having this experience one way or the other. So at first, I got a little nervous about them, but after a while, I would talk to them and they were clearly listening. Like they would, when I'd speak to them, they'd laugh like, "You right there," and then look at me like, "Come sit down," and come sit down. Like they were very curious. They were very friendly, even, I would dare say. Like they didn't do anything to harm me. Sometimes they would get really close to me and just kind of like be staring at me. And then they would just move away. But it was like they would always wanted to see what I was doing, see what I was watching, see what I was listening to. When I would go stand next to my altar, they'd gather around me. like it was almost like I was leading a class.
Yeah, like curious little children's a good way to describe it, right? Yeah, like almost like curious little children.
There were some smaller than me, but they were all like curious children. But they were different shapes and sizes. Some were smaller, some were taller. Some looked a little less humanoid. Some looked like just a shadow of a human. Mm-hmm. So, but they all seemed curious, and none of them seemed overtly unfriendly, except for this one. And I called him the Shadow King because when he walked in the room, first off, his head, like his shadow head, was bigger than everyone else. almost like he had a big head. Like I literally looked at it like that's perfect. He's like a prideful thing or something. And when he would walk in the room, the other things would like shirk, hide in corners, like they literally like jump into like shadows. Some of them would hide right behind me. And I had to basically eat this being, not physically, but like with my own essence. I literally drew it into me because it was messing with the other ones. Like they were all seemingly afraid of this one. And it's the only one that tried to like make me afraid of it. Like it would, because they can move pretty quickly. They don't move like we move, like taking steps. They do take steps, but it's almost like they're gliding as they step. So they don't really need to step. I think it might even be the way my brain wants to show me, so because I know something's there. So my brain is trying to work it out as like a person. But he would like come right in my face really fast, like pause. That sounded real gay.
No, did he?
He'd get in my face real fast and like try to scare me or something. And like the first couple times he did it, I didn't get scared. I got a little nervous because this is the first one got aggressive, but I was also like, what are you doing? Like, why are you this close to me? Like, back away from him. If you're really focused on it, they can't really do anything to stop it, and they don't want you to do it. Some of them might not mind you doing it because they like to be part of you, but the ones that are more prideful, if you will, they like to eat other shadow people. They're like cannibals of their own kind, and because of that, they walk around like monsters amongst their own. And I was like, damn, this video is perfectly describing this fucking shadow thing that I'm dealing with right now. And all these other ones are scattering every time it comes around. I'm gonna try this. When I did it the first time, it like backed away into a corner and then like disappeared. Like it went into the shadow and then was just gone. The next time it came around, I want to say a few hours later, I'm pretty sure it was the same day. This 5 days was like a blur to me, but I'm pretty sure it was the same day it happened. I basically stepped into the corner that it always likes to run into and did it from there and just drew it right into me. And I didn't feel like a pain or a hunger being satiated, but I did get cold for a second. And then I went back to normal. It was almost like something cold washed over me and then went back to normal. And it was just gone. And it never came back, and the other little shadow people were happy. I do remember getting very tired, and then I ended up falling asleep. That's, you know what? I'm connecting that now. That might have been why I got so tired. I mean, I was up for 5 days, but
I want to fucking do this shit, so I got to stay up hell long. I want to be one of the fucking heroes of the little shadow people realm and eat the bad ones.
I called him the Shadow King for that reason. I was like, I just opposed the Shadow King. But
Dude.
It took me multiple days of doing that and being in that mind state to even really be able to look at them. Even just seeing them in my peripheral continuously took like 3 days of being awake and being extra. Now, maybe I didn't need to be extra lit. I just thought that if I'm trying to see something in another, if I'm mixing marijuana with shrooms and alcohol and tobacco, and I have my room full of smoky incense and I'm chanting, and I'm doing all the different things that people say they've been able to see other things in their reality with, including necromancy, you name it. I'll try almost anything if I can do it without harming someone else. And so I just did a whole bunch of shit, and that's the experience I ended up having. And as always, I always tell people, don't believe me. Try it yourself. See if you have the same experience. If you don't, hey, maybe I'm just crazy. Like, that's always a possibility.
What possessed you to stay up for 5 days?
Well, I didn't pick a day. I just said, I'm just going to stay up as long as I can. So I did that once when I was a teenager. This is the first time I saw these things in my peripheral. I was 15 years old or 16 years old, and a group of my friends decided we're just going to stay up as long as we can. Why not? We ain't got shit else to do. Let's do it. Me and my friend Rodney stayed up for 4.5 days. And again, around the same time, I want to say it was around 3 days to 4 days, we were both seeing moving shadows out of the corners of our eyes. But at that time, I did not consider it to be a shadow person. I used my brain and my logic and was like, well, our eyes are definitely being affected. Light is definitely, being absorbed differently because we've been awake for so long. Our brain is processing it, yada, yada. I explained it away in whatever way I could. But when I was older, I was like, you know what? I want to see if I can go longer than when I was a teenager. And I want to try all these different things while I do it and see if I can have any type of experience. Well, I was thinking at that time, I was thinking more on the lines of like interdimensional beings and like maybe I could look into the other reality that exists right alongside our reality if I just alter the way my brain is perceiving our reality. And I ended up having that particular experience. So I didn't go in there looking specifically for shadow people. But I did remember being a teenager and seeing those moving shadows out of the corner of my eyes. So I just tried it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a second conversation, Shangael. I don't know when you're. I'm gonna message you when I have openings and availability. I'm trying to set up at least one conversation every day. I'm trying to, if I could do one every day, that'd be great. I'm trying to do one every other day. But yeah, I've still got tons of questions to ask you, dude. I really appreciate you coming on, talking to me. I really appreciate you giving me your time. I appreciate all the questions that I could get to ask you. There aren't too many people in this realm that astral project on that level, and I appreciate you, and thank you again for coming on, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Anytime. You let me know, and I'll be here for you.
All right, Shangael, I appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, brother.
Peace.
Peace.
Abundance, love, light, peace, prosperity, anything good that could come to Shangael and Shangael's life. Love, harmony, peace of mind, abundance. I wish that on him. I wish that on everybody watching. Thank you guys for coming and checking out the conversation with me and Shangael. I love you guys, and I know reality sucks, but you heard Shangael say it himself. Thank you, Shangael. That being good, kind, and sweet does still have meaning, even in a place as hellish and dark as this one. I know most of you guys out there are suffering, guys and gals out there are suffering. I know that this place is tough, but you got me, you got people that actually have hearts that care about you. If I could make the realm a better place, I would. I'm trying the best I can. And I love you guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.